This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites. A no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better host, or if you're looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month absolutely free. And now, enjoy the show.
This is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Will Ospreay, and you are listening to Busted Wide Open. Thank you.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open podcast, but if this is your first time joining the show, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 151. I'm Nick Howell.
And dropping the mic like Jimmy Uso, I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and welcome to the show. And
Triggered
Jimmy.
much?
Yeah, Jimmy. Here we are, Nick. We are back again. We had a great week of programming this week. I have to say, Raw and SmackDown were very, very entertaining, possibly the best Raw of the year this week. And in addition, I can really only say this. The New Japan G1 has absolutely lost its mind. It's lost its mind. Within the course of two shows, everything's just gone straight to hell. Anyone who, if your brackets aren't busted at the G1 right now, then you're either Gato himself or you have a psychic connection with him, because stuff's crazy over there. NXT is building up for TakeOver Toronto. There's all kinds of good stuff to talk about, Nick. But before we do that, let's do some housekeeping, and then we'll get into the rest of the show.
Yes, guys, a little bit of extra housekeeping today because we have some juicy announcements. If you stuck around to the end of the show last week, you heard a special surprise regarding our YouTube subscriber drive that we're doing between now and the time that the WWE airs SmackDown Live on Fox on October 4th. All right? What that means, if you heard, if you can get us to 1,000 subscribers by the time SmackDown Live airs on Fox on Friday nights on October 4th, Sir Ian Dangerous is going to sing Tai Chi's theme song in Japanese at karaoke, record it, and it will go up on YouTube for everyone to see.
I just got sick again.
I told him I think we could do better if we get to 1,000 by the end of August. Today is August 1st. If we get to this by the stroke of midnight going into September 1st, then in addition, I will also get up and sing Nia Jax's theme song at karaoke and be recorded. So we got 30 days if you want to get both. To help you along the way, we kicked off today a new campaign that we're doing at Busted Wide Open called the BWO Monthly Merch Giveaway. And what that is it's a campaign that we do through a site called Gleam. You go there and you just confirm that you're following us on all of our socials and subscribed here to the YouTube channel. And voila, you get a bunch of entries into a random giveaway every single month for a BWO grab bag of merch. That's t-shirts, stickers, a chub cup, coffee mug. It could be a variety of things. We're going to switch it up on you every month. But yes, to get entered into that random drawing, you have to go and check all those boxes. The link is in the BWO group, and I'll have it in the description of this video so you can find it, and we'll be blasting it across all of our socials all throughout the month. So pay attention to that so that you can get in on some merch. Like I said, you definitely want to be in the Busted Wide Open discussion group over on Facebook. It is the hub of our operation and where we make all of these big announcements first and foremost. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, which you will need to do for the giveaway at BWO Podcast. If you're watching us live right here on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for joining in today. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We were trying some new stuff, but Not today. Not today. But be sure you're subscribed to us right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you also get notified anytime we have any new events go up, new video footage that we're going to be start doing some more of here very soon. But yeah, lots of stuff going on at the BWOHQ. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. Ian, I am ready to talk about some of the wrestling.
Are you?
We are getting closer. It's huge right now. We're getting closer to
SummerSlam. That's good. I'm still over here shuddering at the idea that I may have to sing Tai Chi's theme song. I'm still in shock.
I'm trying to hear it in my head, and I can't. I'm going to have to go look it up.
Oh, it's just as bad as you think it is. You want to give us a little
sample?
No, I don't. Instead, what I want to do is head on over, Nick, and talk about the big news.
Well, we have to start off the show today with a little bit of somber news, but it's important. It's important to talk about the fact that we lost Harley Race today. Literally today. I mean, within the past few hours, it was announced.
Yeah, we were actually going to do like a joke segment, I think, for the big news today, where we're talking about the new skip intro function in the WWE network. And we just scrapped that entirely because this is about as important as it gets in terms of passings. Harley Race was one. I mean, when you talk about the term legend, I'm going to quote Lance Storm here. When you talk about the term legend, it's reserved for people like Harley Race. It's why it shouldn't be overused. This is a legend. This is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, full stop. And to even try to summarize his career would be, I think, a disservice to the man and to what he did. But you can certainly just, mention some highlights in the fact that the guy is in pretty much every Hall of Fame there is: WWE, NWA, ProRes, the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Like he's in like everyone that I can think of, plus some that like I've never even heard of. Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame, 8-time NWA champ. So he was the guy opposite Ric Flair at the Starrcade, Flair for the Gold. I mean, absolutely all-time legend. One of the only people that Andre the Giant was legitimately scared of. I mean, that's a hard dude. That's a hard guy right there. It was pretty much him and Haku were the only guys that Andre was like, I don't want to mess with them. Just a badass dude. And I don't know when you first became aware of him, Nick. I remember as a kid when he was feuding with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. In WWE, yeah.
Yep.
The King. When he was the King. When he was the King Harley Race. And like remember when he made Junkyard Dog kneel after he beat him at WrestleMania 3? I didn't see that when it first happened, but I do remember him and Jim Duggan having a feud back in the day.
Yeah.
And thinking that like I couldn't put my finger on it, but he scared the crap out of me as a kid. Like he just seemed like a dude I would not want to mess with. That was my first my childlike impression of the man, which I think is kind of that is what a classic professional wrestler should be, is just a dude that makes you think he can kick ass. And Harley Race absolutely could. He could kick your ass.
That's true. That is true. I think the thing that's most foundational for me as a fan is the fact that nearly every single superstar that I've grown up with over the last 30 years watching cites Harley Race as an inspiration of some sort.
Yep.
Like you're going to be hard-pressed to find someone that did not find inspiration, learn something from, get guidance by. He was one of those influential individuals that, we've done our Mount Rushmore of the WWE. I'm kind of sad and ashamed that he, didn't make that. But he absolutely should. I think we put it on our honorable mentions, if I'm remembering.
Yeah, right. No, he was at the top of our honorables. And it was just, I think, a personal thing. And the fact that, when you talk about the all-time wrestling legends, he just edges out of the top 4, right. I think. But it depends on who you talk to. It depends on who, where you grew up. If you're from, Mid-South or whatever, you might very well put Harley Race at the top. So, yeah. So, he's always in the conversation for one of the greatest of all time. So rest in peace, Harley Race. That is a tragic tragic loss, and I really don't think we should put anything out. This should just be standalone by itself. It is the big news of the week. And just, Nick, I've got nothing else to say. I'm kind of speechless. That's one that stings.
Yeah,
that's one that stings for sure. Especially because we saw it coming. We mentioned it a few weeks ago that he might have lung cancer. He might not have lung cancer. It turned out that he did, and that's what he was in the hospital for. And he passed away today. So I think, Nick, let's just leave that as it is. Shout out to his family and our best to them. And rest in peace, Harley Race.
Rest in peace, Harley Race.
Let's move on over and get into the rest of our weeks. There's plenty more to talk about. With a tear in my eye, let's go talk about Monday Night Raw.
So, things got a little dicey this week.
A little bit. Holy smokes.
Much like the G1 got a little out of control, this stuff, the SummerSlam, road to SummerSlam, started getting a little bit chaotic as well this week. As one of the themes that I noticed across the WWE as we moved forward. There's a lot of stuff that happened here, and I want to you're much better at running down this stuff than I am.
Thanks.
Why don't open this up for us?
Thanks,
how did we get into trouble here?
Well, I mean, it depends on which particular thing you're talking about. I'm going to start with, so there was the kerfuffle that ended the show, and then there's the thing that's on everyone's lips. There's the big moment that's on everyone's lips, and that's what Brock Lesnar did to Seth Rollins. I'm going to start with that.
He whooped that boy's ass. That's what I'm going to say.
Good Lord. Okay, so this just was, we had a match between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, which when you first had it, you're kind of, okay, you shrug. All right, it'll probably be a good match. They've had good matches in the past, except for that one best of, why am I spacing on this? Who can get most pinfalls match that they had where they went down to the wire and it was just completely obvious. They work well together is what I'm trying to say here, Nick. They work well together. So off the bat, you're like, all right, it'll be a fine match. Here's the thing. Here's what no one expected is towards the end of the match, as they were just starting to heat up, Brock Lesnar's music hits. And instead of it being a false flag and no one coming out, nope, there comes Brock Lesnar, and Seth, looking like he's in the gaze of a pouncing lion, is ready to attack back on him. No. Dolph Ziggler grabs his leg and holds him down until Brock gets his hands on him. And then it's just an absolute mauling from there. He takes F5s against the ring posts. He takes F5s onto the backs of chairs. It was a murder in the ring, to the point where they actually had a close-up of Seth Rollins coughing up blood by the end of this segment. And just when you thought it was over, and after this was all done, and Paul Heyman had to go to Brock Lesnar and beg him to stop hurting Seth Rollins, begged him with fear in his eyes, and finally Brock walked away. Seth's getting loaded into the ambulance. Brock is standing in front of the ambulance, tells it to stop, gets in the back of the ambulance, pulls Seth out, and F5s him again on an overturned gurney. This is probably one of the most violent beatings we've seen in WWE in recent memory, Nick. This is probably what was different about this to you, because it's one of the things a lot of people are saying was this was a different kind of violence. And there's two things I want you to think about here. One, when you talk about this, Vince just recently said that WWE doesn't do blood and guts. That's an AEW thing, right? He made that distinction.
Right.
So was this blood and guts, or was this just violent in another way? Why did this feel more brutal than some of the violence we've seen in WWE over the last few years?
I'm not going to pretend that there's not a difference in Dustin Rhodes blading and bleeding all over the damn ring and turning the entire mat red with his blood. But you're painting the mat with his blood, and Seth Rollins spitting up a little bit of blood, right? The violent part of this for me was the F5s onto the back of the chair. Like, how do you not, even as safe of a worker as those guys might be, somebody's getting hurt when you're coming down on your ribs onto a chair like that. I don't know. So for Vince to say we're not blood and guts, he spit up a little bit of blood, whatever. It happens. People bust their lips. It's fine. Whatever. That I'm not too worried about. I like this to build the intensity. I like I like some good ass whipping, getting hands on each other, getting physicality as we head into SummerSlam. This feels like it's more intense than the WrestleMania match. There's just
by a long way.
Yeah.
This is the most intense we've ever seen Brock and Seth
I don't
together.
know. Brock kind of whooped his ass at Mania.
Not like this. Not like he had some welts and stuff. They sold this like he broke Seth's ribs and the shards of those rib bones went into his lungs. You had the announcers, even Corey Graves, saying it was completely inappropriate, that it was horrific. The way that the announcers sold it, the way that Paul Heyman sold it when he was telling Brock to stop.
Paul Heyman begging off Brock.
Yeah,
you never see that, right?
So this is what I was going to say about it, is that the reason this felt different was how they sold it. And I thought it was brilliant in how they made it feel like a bigger deal. And I really honestly do feel this is that Heyman touch here, is him coming along and saying, you know how you make this feel real? By adding these little elements. It's the details. It's what we always complain about here, Nick, is all it takes is just the right details in the right place, and you completely change the aspect of a segment. And that was how it was here. Having Paul Heyman with open fear in his eyes, grabbing Brock and telling him to stop. And that look in his face like, oh my God, you're actually going to kill him. You might actually murder him or cause permanent damage. The way that the announcers sold it, the verbiage that they were using, that all built up to make this feel more intense than it might otherwise have. And for my money, the sickest bump was the one on the overturned gurney. That didn't, like, with the chair, I could see how Seth could protect himself. That I'm like, that just had to have sucked. So regardless, moving forward, Nick, do you see that this is going to be something they're going to call back to in the SummerSlam match? Because they've already started saying that Seth Rollins refuses to reveal the diagnosis once he got to the hospital, like what his status is. Do you think this is their way out of having Seth win at SummerSlam, where Brock can retain because Seth is just so incredibly still messed up?
To what end?
Or is this going to be an overcome?
Are we continuing this beyond SummerSlam?
Possibly. Like I've been speculating that they might want to keep the babyface win until closer to Fox, and have that be their big push to Fox, is having their final boss be beaten once we're on the network.
Given Fox's history, I can totally see them wanting. Yeah, no, Fox is going to get SmackDown, so it's kind of irrelevant to the Universal title, in my opinion. Am I wrong there in thinking that way?
No, there is rumors that they're going to actually make the brand split to more hard and fast brand split again once they get onto TV. But I'm trying to think why they would want to delay this. I don't even know why they put it back on Brock at this point in the first place.
I don't either.
I do.
Giving him the
the
damn Money in the
time,
Bank contract was the stupidest thing I've seen. It was it was dumber than giving it to Braun Strowman last year.
Yeah, it was. We both agree on that, Nick. That's a point we've made on this show a few times. But that being said, Brock has it now. Brock is the Universal Champion. Can we at least take a positive out of this and say, one, at least he showed up on TV, and two, looked great doing so, and 2.5, has Brock felt like this much of a monster final boss in a while? Like this is as good as I feel he's felt as in terms of like a terrifying final boss.
Because I don't think there's any faith in the current roster of what's going on. You bring Brock out and have him do that to somebody, it levels up whatever else has been going on that's kind of somewhat average.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at your top two champions, it was Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch. And they were about as enigmatic as, average.
Yeah.
But you bring in big honking hoss dudes that just throw people around and beat the hell out of. That's WWE's brand. That's their style. That's Vince McMahon. And frankly, it's one of the things that I fell in love with wrestling a long time ago. It's why I love hoss matches and big dudes. I like big dudes that can come in and throw people around and do feats of strength that average people cannot do. The problem with the current roster, yes, it's a bunch of flippy shit and it's high flying and it's exciting, but it's kind of just there. It's kind of average, and it's more soap opera than sports. That's
okay. I'm going to argue that and say that soap opera has always been what it is. And the flippy stuff has nothing to do with the fact that it feels average. You even got a guy like Seth Rollins who really has no defined character other than his opposition. And that's a classic babyface problem when you have a babyface that really isn't defined other than his opponents. It's why there's more great heels in history than there are great babyfaces.
Yeah.
Is that it's easier to define a heel character. It's much harder to define a babyface. And so you have guys like Ricochet or right now Seth Rollins, or even to some extent Roman Reigns, who are just kind of there. And they're just happy to be there, you know what I mean? But they don't really have a defined character beyond that. So that might be more what you're looking at here.
Yeah.
But this definitely makes Seth much more empathetic than he was before. So, you know, in that sense, it works. Nick, before we move on, I do want to point out real quick, Dolph Ziggler, before his match with Seth, came out to Shawn Michaels music, and he cut a promo where he was both baiting Michaels and Goldberg. He hasn't been able to keep Goldberg's name out of his mouth for the last week or so. And I'm really I'm going to do this right now. I'm actually really mad at Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer because, damn it, Nick, if we did this show 2 days earlier in the week, I would have said, right after I saw SmackDown, I would have said, oh, I know what's going to happen at SummerSlam now. But damn it, Alvarez, this is a funny thing. Alvarez apparently said what I was thinking, which was, man, Dolph Ziggler's been saying Goldberg's name a lot. He's probably going to have a match with Goldberg. And this match with The Miz that they're setting up is probably like a ruse or a red herring. And then WWE called the Wrestling Observer guys and said, how did you know what we were going to do? Who told you? Because they thought that they had actually said that was what was going to happen and not just speculated. I was going to speculate the same damn thing, Nick.
It's because they listen to the podcast.
I know. Well, they listened to my thoughts. But anyway, Dave Meltzer and Alvarez got to it for us. Damn it, Nick. But yes, it does seem like Dolph is baiting Goldberg because they are heading to a match at SummerSlam. And in fact, I believe it's been made official, or at least it's been confirmed that is what is going to be happening, is Ziggler versus Goldberg at SummerSlam. I don't think it's been brought out in kayfabe on the shows yet, but that's what's going to happen. Which, let's just do this now. Let's not wait till SmackDown. What do you think about Ziggler Goldberg here?
Awful.
Okay.
Awful. I don't want to see Goldberg.
You're burned out after what he did at with Undertaker. You don't want to see anymore.
Well, let's put that aside for a second. I want to see Goldberg whoop the shit out of Brock Lesnar. I want to see big boys doing big boy stuff. That's what was so great about Strowman and Lashley recently.
You don't see him and Ziggler spear jackhammer 1, 2, 3 in 30 seconds. You don't want to see that.
It's done. It's over. He won't be able to get up off of him or from under him. So I mean, what's the point? Come on, man. Somebody give Goldberg a paycheck so he can go on into retirement.
I agree with the what's the point aspect of this. Is okay. Dolph Ziggler, his new character is like he screams and is annoying, and then Goldberg's gonna come along and shut him up. Whoop-de-doo. If they're trying to get some sort of redemption for Goldberg for what happened with his Undertaker match, I don't know if this is the way to do it, Nick, but I guess it is SummerSlam. They're trying to make a big show, so maybe that's what the thought is. I don't know. Not a fan.
There are several people's music that I still to this day kind of geek out for. Of course, Undertaker, Goldberg, his entrance, the whole thing. You just hear him in the locker room in the trade union screaming,
headbutting the door and giving himself a concussion.
Well, he shouldn't be headbanging doors, but I love hearing the spitting and just inhaling the smoke for 10 years, and the pyro just God. And I felt the same way. I was the same way about Batista. There was that video going around of Xavier Woods when Batista came out.
WrestleMania, yeah.
That was one of those, right?
Yeah.
So I still geek out when I hear it, but I don't want to see him have a match with Dolph Ziggler. I could care effing less.
Well, at least you'll get the entrance, Nick. So there is that.
Maybe.
But something else that I did like this week was the, quote, Samoan Summit. So while in the background of seeing Seth Rollins getting carted away in the ambulance, we saw a scuffle break out between Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, the Usos, and the OC for some reason. And this carried on to the ring. Joe went out to the ring and called out Roman Reigns. They were supposed to just get out there and have a talk, I guess. But Joe said, none of that. Let's just keep this fight going. Roman came out, and a giant scuffle started happening. Drew McIntyre showed up for it. Cedric Alexander showed up for it. Everyone's just tussling all over the place. They got up by the announcer's desk on the ramp, and Cedric Alexander, for some reason, got up on the Titantron and jumped off on everybody. And it was a madhouse. It did end up with Roman Reigns and the Usos super kicking and spearing Samoa Joe. Joe gets laid out in the middle of the ring. All the other good guys Samoans celebrate. Yay, happy way to end the show. But was this, so two things, Nick. Was this chaotic segment, was this as fun for you as it was for me? And should this have ended the show? Or should this have gone earlier in the show?
I think it should have gone earlier, or at least have one more thing afterwards that kind of buttons something up. But look, we've got another week. We've got another week to go. We've got the go-home shows. Maybe it can carry on into next week, and we can figure out the deal there. I'm not mad at it. I'm not upset about it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought this segment was one of the better things that happened in WWE this week. So I enjoyed it. I'm not mad at it, but I think they could have had one more thing. Maybe that scuffle of everybody finalizes down to two guys. Maybe it ends up being, Roman and Samoa Joe or something.
Well, this was the
that.
question I had was, what are the feuds everyone's heading into here? There's a we'll talk about this on SmackDown. I don't think Roman's going to end up in a feud with Samoa Joe.
No.
The only feud I see coming out of this, if the Usos and the OC end up continuing their feud, we'll talk about that in a second as well, then that's a possibility. The only one we know of for sure is that Drew McIntyre will inexplicably be facing Cedric Alexander at SummerSlam, which, great for Cedric. Bizarre for Drew McIntyre. I know that they've built up a bit of a thing between them over the last few weeks, but it seemed a little bit slight to suddenly become a SummerSlam match. The only thing I can really say here, we heard that when Heyman came to Raw, there were certain superstars that he wanted. He wanted to get his hands on. He wanted to work with creatively. Do you suspect Cedric Alexander might be a Paul Heyman guy?
I hadn't even thought about that yet.
Yeah.
I need to process that. Has a lot of implications.
Well, process while I explain. Okay. Because, Cedric wasn't used for a couple of weeks. Paul Heyman takes over. All of a sudden, Cedric is the guy who gets put out there as the partner for Roman Reigns, the masked partner. He gets unmasked and has a huge babyface pop, and has been used consistently since then as a Ricochet-like babyface. I would say that he's following like a Ricochet, Ali, those kind of like exciting flying around baby faces that they're starting to use now. Cedric all of a sudden is one of those. And they're giving him big spots like the jump off the Tron earlier. And they're putting him with a top guy in McIntyre. And I mean, that's going from 0 to 100 for this guy who we thought was just disappearing a couple of weeks ago. Paul Heyman takes over. All of a sudden, Cedric is relevant.
So it's your theory that Cedric or that Paul sees the
money.
Sees a lot of money in Cedric Alexander. Yeah,
that's my theory.
We all have for a couple of years now.
Well, it's because he's a Charlotte boy for you. I know that's you're partial.
Have to. I'm not reading too much into it just yet. I think it's fun for Cedric to get a few spots and maybe something different than chasing the 24/7 herd around.
Yeah. Which
let's see what gets made out of it.
I agree. Let's see what happens. I'm not mad at it so far. It's bizarre for Drew, but I'm not mad at it. But speaking of the 24/7 championship, Nick, the Raw opened this week with the 24/7 championship on the line. There was a lot of 24/7 going on this week. And so let me break it down and we'll talk about it because there's a lot to discuss. First of all, we had a mixed gender tag match between Drake Maverick and his wife and R-Truth and Carmella, which was surrounded. It was called a mosh pit match, which last time I checked was a lumberjack match, but whatever. Fine. Mosh pit match. Sure. After the match, R-Truth ends up beating Drake Maverick. He stands tall with the belt, and all of a sudden 24/7 rules are back in effect. Everyone around the ring jumps him, and who comes out of the pile with the championship but Benne-Kanellis, who then runs off to the back and immediately finds his psycho pregnant wife Maria, okay, a lot of stuff happens here. Everyone's chasing him around. He ends up in a room with Maria, and she says, "Get down on the ground, lie on your back." And she immediately puts her I don't know. So I don't think Kevin Dunn maybe have a foot fetish because she puts her high heel on his chest, counts 3. All of a sudden, she's the champ, walks out of the room. All the mid-carders are standing out there waiting to jump whoever comes out of the room. And she basically gets in everyone's face and goes, "I'm a pregnant champ. What are you going to do?" And I wish I could have sold that in the way that she did it, which was a little bit higher pitched and crazier, Nick. Grating in to put it mildly.
You better start working on that if you're going to sing Tai Chi's entrance song.
What, grating?
No, being able to sing a little higher pitch.
Oh no, he's very, very robust. He's almost a baritone. I'm not worried about it. No. You better worry about it, Mr. Nia Jax. Yeah, that's right. You're not like most girls. So anyway, we end up with the whole segment with her then having her picture taken next to the WWE logo. Braun Strowman shows up, and she inexplicably says that he should act more like a man. I don't know. I didn't quite get this segment here, but. Yeah. Bottom line, Maria Kanellis is your 24/7 champ. She's a pregnant champ. What in the world is going on here?
I was completely okay with Kelly getting it off of the Stooges. Like being the way that was handled, I was completely. And then whatever happened with Alundra Blaze and all of the other ones after that, I was fine with that. I'm not okay with this. This takes away, like, I want it to get crazy. This kind of puts it in a position where you've now painted yourself in a corner. You better have a clever way of getting it back off of her, because this can be a little bit controversial if you're going to have somebody figure out how to pin a pregnant woman.
I think she even mentioned, like, I've got an appointment with my doctor, my gyno, in a couple of weeks. If you want to come and pin me while I'm in the stirrups, be my guest. I didn't think so. And I was just like, they wouldn't. Would they?
It's an interesting question. A couple of weeks ago, we reported that they were getting punished, and I'm not thinking that they're getting punished anymore. Like, this is actually a program that they're doing.
No, I think that there's a certain aspect of humiliation that they're giving to Kanellis, to Mike at least, possibly for his addictions, which he's now since overcome, but he's doing penance for it. It still feels like he's paying penance for frickin' something, because between having, what was it, where she was outside the room and he's got the door locked against all of the mid-carders and she's banging to get in. He says, "How do I know it's my wife and not Carmella pretending to be my wife?" And she said something to the effect of, "Open this door now before I put my boot in your vagina," or something like that. And then, of course, the humiliation of having her, like, her making him lie down and saying, "Our unborn child needs a real champion for a parent." There's still a lot of humiliation going on with him. And I'm trying to wrap my head around what the logic is or what the reasoning is behind all of that. And it's not quite clicking. I'm not sure if this is just entertaining to someone in WWE.
Yeah.
Because it's not really to me. The overall story arc of the 24/7 championship is still intriguing and entertaining to me. Like, there's so many, spinning wheels now with it that I'm like, okay, what's going to happen next? But I'm not sitting here going, this is great TV. This is like all-time great WWE stuff. No. But yeah, I don't know. I'm of two minds about it still.
I'm already missing Drake and R-Truth.
I have a feeling they're not done with this yet. Besides, 205 Live had a great match with Drake and Kanellis, which we'll talk about later as well. So more about 24/7 championship later on. But right now, we got a pregnant champ. So we'll see what happens. Still in the yay. Speaking of the women's division, we had a moment of bliss. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross came out to talk all things women's evolution, or more specifically to talk about the fact that Becky Lynch attacked Natalya during a training session earlier in the day, and we're shown footage of Natalya training with Fit Finlay. Becky Lynch comes out to the ring and attacks Finlay, and then puts Natalya in a disarmor, and then calls Finlay a traitor before leaving the ring. I thought it was a nice little detail, considering that Finlay's the one that led her into the Rumble. Yeah. What did you let's, before we move on, because Becky then called out Alexa on the Tron and said, "I hear you out there talking. We're going to have a match later." Before we get to that match, what did you think about how they're portraying Becky here? Was this too heelish? Are they trying to do like a tweener thing? Was it just, did this connect for you?
Not really. I mean, I like Alexa and Nikki being involved in stuff, but just the way things are getting executed is kind of making me tune out. I liked what they did this week. I think that was over on SmackDown. Never mind. I'll save that for SmackDown. I like what they did on SmackDown with it this week. That's what I wanted to say. I don't know what's going on with Becky right now. Like, they're trying to, like, they're teasing us with Alexa and Nikki against Bayley, and now we're also getting Alexa and Nikki against Becky. Like, where are they actually going to use Alexa and Nikki?
Well, we ended up, as you said, having a match where it was Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch. Alexa gets, quote-unquote, injured at some point in the match, busts her ankle, and cannot continue. And Nikki is so fired up that Becky hurt her friend that she gets in there. Now she has a match with Becky. Becky beats her clean, and then they both start beating her down. They're interrupted by Natalya, who comes out, puts Becky in the sharpshooter, and then backstage challenges Becky, or half challenges Becky to a submission match at SummerSlam. This was all to me, this was very convoluted, and it didn't really get anybody over because it didn't make Natalya look any stronger, just more like an opportunist. I didn't really feel like it did much for her. As far as Alexa and Nikki, it kept Alexa looking like a conniving heel because obviously she was faking her injury. And, I love Corey saying, like, she got better, and when she jumped Becky after the match. And it makes Nikki look like a fool for still being with Alexa because she's very blatantly, cheating to get Nikki's sympathies. It was just weird. It was kind of weird all around. It made Becky look like a bit of a bully and then also a fool. So I wasn't really sure what the end result was that they were going for here with the booking.
Yeah.
I think that it could have been done more elegantly. But again, I don't know what the end result was they're trying to go for here. I know that they're trying to build Nikki and Alexa as a tag team because the rumor is they're going for a fatal four-way women's tag match at SummerSlam. And they're trying to build them up to be a tag team. I can see you hurting. I can hear you hurting. I don't even have to look at the computer screen. I can hear you hurting over there, Nick. Why? When I say that Alexa Bliss and Nikki are going to be a tag team. Because they have no other tag teams in the women's division.
It's not just that. It's like you've already got them in a program with Bayley.
No, you don't. It's done. That's done. You have a Bayley in a program with Ember. We'll get to that on SmackDown. But we'll get to
But now you're throwing them into this. Okay, so they failed at overcoming Bayley. Now they're going to throw them right into a thing with the other champ on the other show. Are there no other women in the WWE except Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross?
This is my point. This was filler to try and heat up the whole Becky Natalya angle, but I don't think it did that, is what I'm saying. I mean, it sounds like you're just as confused about what they're doing with them as everyone else. Yeah.
They don't even know what they're doing.
I don't think it feels that way a little bit with this. I think that they're kind of missing the mark with both Natalya and Becky in this feud, and I'm not sure why they're using Alexa and Nikki in this particular manner. Although the Moment of Bliss stuff, the dynamic there is interesting. I think the stuff they're doing with Nikki Cross is generally fantastic, although it seems to have cooled off a little bit. Yeah. But I love the idea of it. But again, booking here was very strange. Yep. Also, less strange booking. I think very understandable booking, but at the same time, let's talk about it. We had a tag team triple threat match for the titles. Usos versus the OC versus the Revival. Mwah, beautiful match. Great match.
On paper, I almost came to full completion just hearing that was going to be a match.
I'm going to take a drink just from hearing that. That's disgusting.
I mean, just those three teams right there are just exactly what I want in my tag team division.
Yes.
The Good Brothers, the Usos, and the Revival. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Just yes, please, all day, every day.
All the times we've been complaining about the Raw tag division, there's three good teams right there. And the Viking Raiders had a squash match this week too. So they're around. They're hanging out somewhere nearby. That's four good teams.
Exactly. You put a fatal four-way tag match together for those four teams. Yes, please. This is the opposite of what I've been spending the last 2 years complaining about in the Raw tag division. This is exactly what it should have been.
Also, Nick, to be clear, this is four teams that are all proper tag teams. I would argue even the OC, those aren't singles guys. They used to be. They're not now. That's four tag teams that are tag teams.
Legit.
So no wonder you're all tickled pink over there.
Yes. That's one way to put it.
That is one way to put it. But yeah, as you might have guessed based on the shenanigans that he got up to last week, Jimmy Uso ate the pin after some wild near falls at the end of this match. Some fantastic work near the end of this match. Jimmy Uso eats the pin, and the OC are your new Raw Tag Team Champions. Is this two things? Was this just WWE making nice by saying, look, we're punishing Jimmy and having him eat the pin? That's one. And then two, the OC is the new champs. Did the Revival get their fair due, or is this the best idea to have the OC be champs and draped in gold along with AJ?
I think this is fantastic, and I don't think either one of those teams looked bad. All three of these teams looked fantastic in this match. It could have been anybody eating the pin. Obviously, it's Jimmy for obvious reasons because obvious. But I'm not mad at. I wouldn't be mad at anyone eating a pin out of these 6 guys. They're all going to look fantastic throughout the match, and they did. And so that's it.
I think it's obvious that Jimmy eats the pin, but that's the problem, is it's too obvious. And I don't know if that's enough of a punishment for him. They didn't suspend him. As far as we know, he didn't get fined. It was just slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Eat the pin. Okay. Whoop-de-doo. I ate the pin. I think, to me, it felt a little bit like PR.
This is kind of his second strike, though, in the last few months. So
in the last few months, not even overall.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, the OC, your new champs. And as we mentioned, AJ Styles is the U.S. champ right now. And there was a gauntlet match. This Raw was so consistently packed that if you watched Hulu, you didn't even see this gauntlet match.
I didn't.
And it was hellacious. It was fantastic. You had, let me see if I'm going to list this all off. We had, it started off with Rey Mysterio and Cesaro. Rey ends up beating up. That was fantastic. Rey ends up winning. Sami Zayn comes out, gets squashed by Rey. That was bizarre. And then we had Andrade Cien Almas versus Rey Mysterio. And now this was not as wild and crazy as some of their SmackDown encounters. They didn't really go for the crazy big moves, like whatever, Tombstone Spanish Flies and all the other crazy stuff they were doing. But they did have, at the end of this, Andrade tried to rip Rey's mask off and pretty much freaking succeeded. He tore the damn thing off of him.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna throw this out there right now. Do you think Rey is genuinely trying to unmask again before his career winds down?
Possibly.
Because he was unmasked back in WCW. He was unmasked. He's never been unmasked in WWE, as far as I can recall. Do you think that he wants to before this is all done?
Yeah, I do. I think he does.
Why? Why would he want to do that?
I have no answer for that. Only Rey Mysterio can answer that, but I think he can.
Go with your gut.
I think he should. I think it would be a great send-off. Leave the lucha mask in the ring, much like Undertaker left the gloves in the hat.
Yeah, that worked out so well.
Sure.
That worked out real well. He totally left them right there, and had a great walk off into the sunset for the Undertaker. Well, anyway, so this ended up Andrade beat Rey Mysterio. We ended up in the finals with Andrade Cien Almas versus Ricochet. On paper, that just sounds so delicious. And you know what? In practice, it was delicious as well. Fantastic ending to this match. Ricochet, however, picks up the win, and he will be going on to face AJ Styles at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. No surprise there. They have an ongoing feud. Fantastic. That being said, Nick, are you as hungry as I am to see a Ricochet-Andrade feud down the road?
Yes, on paper, like I was saying earlier, that just sounds just complete money. Please. Like, I think that would have been better to have for the U.S. title than giving it right back to AJ Styles, frankly.
I'm still cool with this Ricochet AJ program. I can wait for the Ricochet.
Like next, right? If there was an option somewhere, but yeah, next, get it back on Ricochet and have Andrade chase, or vice versa. Have Andrade be, but whatever. Those 3 guys all day. Yes.
We have our favorites here on Busted Wide Open.
Yeah, we're no fandoms at all.
So just to wrap up Raw, Nick, this week, like I said, I thought it was the best Raw of the year and maybe even longer. Did they show that it is completely, like every time people complain about Raw being 3 hours, this Raw was 3 hours. And I didn't feel the 3 hours. Maybe during a couple of segments, they found a way to fill this Raw front to back with content, with engaging, interesting, entertaining content. I didn't feel like it was a slog.
No.
Barely at all. Does this prove that they can do it, that you can have a 3-hour wrestling show with a roster this size and get away with it?
Yep. No, I mean, if you take the commercials out of it, you're down to about 2.5 hours, and then, or 2:20, I think is what the math works out to be. And then you chop another 50 minutes off. I'm doing Steiner math here, by the way. You chop another 50 minutes off and you get down to the 90-minute Hulu edition. It went by even faster for me watching the Hulu edition. Yeah. I did not get to see the gauntlet match. I am dying to go back and see that.
Yeah. Well, you need to. You need to. Because if you don't, it spells disaster for you.
They're still G1.
Sacrifice.
They're still G1. Yeah.
They're still G1.
They're still G1. I'm trying to catch up on.
Oh my God, you have to catch up. But Nick, we got to get to the G1, but to do that, we have to talk first about SmackDown Live.
Somebody tried to kill Roman Reigns.
What?
My Roman Reigns.
They tried to kill. Who done it? Roman? No, not my Roman. No, who tried to kill Roman Reigns? Very end of the show.
The scaffolding and the roadie cases and tried to kill Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns walking down the hall at the end of the show to announce who he was going to face at SummerSlam. And as he's walking, we suddenly get multiple camera shots of a scaffolding falling on him and pinning him. A bunch of cases and boxes, like the whole side of the wall came down on him. But luckily, the scaffolding fell on some other boxes, and Roman escaped barely with his life. Nick, who done it?
Mercy the Buzzard.
Mercy the Buzzard.
Yep, that's who I'm going
Mercy
with.
the Buzzard is busy with Finn Balor right now.
Well, I don't know if Mercy is, but the Fiend is.
That's true.
And Ramblin' Rabbit gave a televangelist pep talk today about whatever.
We'll get to that. We got to talk about Roman Reigns.
Who do you think tried to kill Roman Reigns, sir?
All right, so there's lots of speculations as Roman was picked up by the very, very overly concerned paramedics at the end of it, and then they kept trying to say, "Let's check you out." And he said, "No, I don't want to get checked out." He walked away like a hero. He passed Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy was standing conveniently nearby and seemed to walk away most suspiciously as Roman walked by. That being said, he was in the wrong place to have gotten to the scaffolding, so might not be Buddy Murphy, even though that would be my number one that I would want to see it be. I would love it if it was Buddy Murphy. Yeah. If it ends up being Buddy Murphy, I will be beside myself. That's a huge push for Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
He should be pushed to that level. A major angle like that with Roman Reigns, especially when it starts off with him legit trying to kill the man, would be fantastic.
It makes sense that he would, though. I believe that he might try to murder somebody.
You forgot about me? I'm such a hidden secret that y'all forgot? Well, guess what? Here's how I'm going to make you remember me. I'm going to try to kill your boy, Roman Reigns.
You sure it wasn't Johnny Gargano this time?
Pretty sure it was not Johnny Gargano. However, I am not sure that it was not Daniel Bryan, because Roman Reigns is being booked to face Daniel Bryan all through the fall. Daniel Bryan, once again this week, was supposed to give an announcement about the future of his career, and he just stared blankly at the camera and did not give that. He just walked away with Rowan in tow. By the way, Rowan's shirt watch. A Both this week. A Both. He's going obscure with some of these. I like that. A Both. Good stuff.
Okay.
I do. They're good. Not my favorite, but they're good.
I'll get them added to the Spotify playlist for everybody.
Rowan still keeping up his end. But no, this right now, all of the rumors are pointing to Daniel Bryan being the one who did this. To me, that's a little underwhelming. That's a little bit like, all right.
What if it was Rowan, though?
Well, Rowan, I think, would be the muscle who did it. Like, he'd be commanding Rowan to do it at Daniel Bryan's behest. I did it for the Daniel. That kind of thing. So, but here's the other thing before we move on. Is this the kind of cliffhanger programming that WWE's been missing? Because when SmackDown went off the air, and let's be clear, Raw was better than SmackDown this week, which is saying something.
Yeah.
But when SmackDown was over, I immediately was like, oh, wow. Oh, who could it be? I started thinking, like, this made me, like, and honestly, I wasn't really paying attention when Roman started walking down the hallway. I was working on my notes. I wasn't really, like, looking. And so when it actually went down, the way that it was delivered, the chaos of it, felt similar in tone to the Seth murder on Monday night, where it felt like sudden, terrifying violence. And it left me with that feeling of, oh my God, anything could happen, which is what you want. When WWE was at its peak in ratings, you never knew what anything could happen. The craziest stuff could happen. It made for water cooler TV. Did you see this? In my opinion, this kind of stuff is what they've been missing, and I love the fact they had this because it made me think about it after the show.
Yeah.
And
I can remember the Attitude Era and the show's going off air. Like, by God, what's Stone Cold going to do to Mr. McMahon next week? That was the things I look forward to. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the YouTubes. We didn't have all of this stuff for them to put up extra. We actually had to wait a whole week to see what would happen.
Right. The dirt sheets weren't as easy to follow. Sting's in the rafters. We're out of time.
Oh, God, we're out of time. We'll see y'all next. No, what?
What? What the? Yeah, so I like the fact that at least now they're going a little bit back to that with the, oh, my God, what's going to happen next kind of TV.
Hey, Abraham Castillo with the 20 bill in the tip jar.
Whoa,
thank you very much, sir.
Very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's I'm sure that's for Nick's glorious beard.
Yes.
It's looking particularly glorious today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Taken after Braun Strowman and the Forgotten Sons there with that thing.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, yes, we will. Oh, yes, we will. I've got to crap on Jackson Riker some more. So we also, at the top of the show, Shane McMahon announced that he was not going to be there tonight. And the crowd was so sad, Nick. The crowd immediately voiced their displeasure with the lack of Shane on their show, even though he was still there on the Titantron.
Right. FaceTiming in or Skyping in or whatever it was, right?
Right. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to be there. I know you're all so sad. So this is the funny thing, is that Shane wasn't in the building. Kevin Owens came out, cut a promo to the microphone about how he's going to whoop his ass at SummerSlam and he was not going to quit and it was going to be great. It was weird that he delivered to the camera, but that aside, good promo. And right as he ended, though, dropped the mic, went to walk away, Drew McIntyre's music hits. And Drew McIntyre came out, mugged Kevin Owens, and then told him, by the way, now that you're incapacitated, we've got a match. And then we proceeded to have one of the matches of the week at the top of the show on SmackDown. Did this suddenly make you want more of a Drew McIntyre Kevin Owens program than a Shane McMahon Kevin Owens program, or was that just me?
No, I'm all in on it. I think this is fantastic. It's exactly the kind of feud McIntyre needs. It was exactly the moment that McIntyre needed with Shane out of the way. We've been saying for a long time now that we're getting tired, a little bit fed up of Drew McIntyre as a goon. He needs to stand out on his own. He needs to be a top card player. And this is exactly what we have been waiting for. This is, yes, put it all in my eye holes. Yes, this is what I want. This is the feud I'd love to see Kevin Owens have at SummerSlam. Have we booked that match officially yet?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. Kevin Owens and Shane is a booked match. Drew Drew. Yeah, Drew's officially booked with Cedric. Yeah. Okay, yes. So that's happening. But Drew and Kevin's down the road?
Yeah.
After watching this match, I want that. Mm-hmm. One quick shout out though, Drew McIntyre apparently trying to get on Botchamania. The first thing he said when he came out was, "Hey, Kevin Owens, you talk too much." Nice long pause so that Matthew can edit that just perfectly right into Botchamania. I'm telling you, keep an eye out. Matthew will have that on Botchamania. He also listens, so you know he's going to be looking for that now.
Nice.
So also on SmackDown, Kofi Kingston versus AJ Styles. There was gold everywhere. You had the New Day SmackDown Tag Team Champions at ringside. You had the OC Raw Tag Team Champions at ringside. You had the WWE Champion, the US Champion in the ring, as you'd expect. Nice match that should have been headlining a pay-per-view.
Yes.
But instead was relegated to the main event of SmackDown and really kind of meant nothing. These guys aren't going to feud. I wasn't really sure what the idea was between having all of this happen other than cool. Which it was.
It was cool AF. I think I even sent you a text that said that exact same. Like, wow, there's 6 belts in the ring. This is nuts.
There's 6 belts in the ring. It is chaos all over. It was a really fun finish. AJ Styles, by the way, eating a clean pin to a Trouble in Paradise after he's jumping off the top rope. Like, AJ laid down clean for Kofi. Kofi's getting some momentum. I said it. I said the M word. Momentum. He's getting it.
You know what? I want to walk something back that I've said previously.
Uh-oh.
I think it might be because they listen and they heard me. Previously, I've said that Kofi's thing was getting long in the tooth. The last couple of weeks, he's been stepping up the game a little bit. And, especially with his promos, with his work in the ring, I've come back around. So I'm a little bit longer. We're good. Especially if they keep strapping all of them and putting them in matches with the OC. Just keep doing that.
It hurts being right all the time, Nick. I'm just going to say, it's just, One question I had, though, was, so Randy Orton has got the match with Kofi at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
He was relegated to a promo before this match talking about how, Kofi had to be all these other things to get over. Randy just had to be Randy. And he said that, yeah, I did call Kofi stupid in the middle of a match back in 2009. Stupid for thinking he was on my level, which was a nice little retconning of reality into kayfabe. Fine, cool. I liked the story they built here. But is it strange to have Kofi in a inarguably amazing main event match that is irrelevant to the Randy Orton feud other than what the commentary throws in the middle of the match, and just have Randy relegated to a promo, albeit a good promo before the match? Should they have had Randy get involved somehow in this match? Should there have been more?
I think it would have been cool to have Randy fly in at the end and do an RKO after Kofi hit that Trouble in Paradise and got the clean pin on AJ. They're celebrating. Yeah. Have Randy do his out of nowhere RKO thing on Kofi, and just as a FU and run out or walk out on before. Maybe they do that next week though. I say that and then I go, nope, I want that on the go home show. So that's that's what I would like to see next week. Some kind of physicality between the two.
It needs to happen. Yeah. It absolutely needs to happen. And by the way, everybody, speaking of Trouble in Paradise, I want to point out, if you're not watching the live stream, you're not seeing Nick cringe as lightning and thunder is blowing up outside of his window right now. Stuff's going nuts over there in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Randy needs to get physical with Kofi next week, at least more. We've had it before, but it was just strange that it wasn't there this week. That being said, we do know that Vince came in the last second and rewrote SmackDown again. Literally, they were writing the second hour as the first hour was going on. Madness. He said he wanted to have it more connected to SummerSlam, which is hilarious considering that this last segment had nothing to do with SummerSlam whatsoever. So let's move on and talk about, we were talking earlier about Alexa and Nikki being a tag team. Well, they had a tag match against Bayley and Ember Moon, who are opponents at SummerSlam. Last week, Ember Moon gave Bayley an eclipse after the match. This week, Ember ate the pin. Ember ate the pin from Alexa Bliss, and then proceeded to take a Bayley to belly, a really nice-looking Bayley to belly, by the way, at the end of this match. So again, we're back to this, Nick. Are they trying to make Alexa and Nikki look like a legit tag team by having them beat legitimate competitors? And if so, does that undermine Ember for the Bayley match? And then on top of that, is Ember, does she look like she's head and shoulders above everybody else, or is it just me?
She's looking fantastic right now. I'll be upfront about that. I'm loving the way they're booking Ember right now. She looks great. I like also
except for
the fact
getting pinned in this match.
Sure. Well, the betrayal at the end of the match, on as part of Bayley just kind of hitting her with that Bayley to belly after the match, I thought was fantastic. As Alexa and Nikki are leaving, walking up the ramp, Bayley kind of turns on Ember and hits her, and that's a nice way to get to the go home show for SummerSlam. Let's see what happens, right? I dig that kind of stuff. But I'm mostly concerned with they're using Alexa and Nikki a little too much. Are we getting tired of them too quickly? Are they doing too many things? And if the ultimate end game is to have them as a tag team, my head explode.
It feels like they're doing a quick build to have them be a tag team and get involved in the women's tag team picture, which let's be clear, needs some help.
It does, and I wouldn't be horribly mad at that. But again, we haven't seen the Kabuki. Sorry,
it hurts.
I had a small aneurysm right there attempting to say that.
It hurts.
The Asuka and Kairi Sane. We have not seen them actually in action. So there are resources there. There are superstars available.
Yeah.
We don't need to use Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross everywhere.
But I will point this out to you, Nick. Aside from a couple of streaks in their hair, neither Asuka nor Kairi are blonde. So Vince is good. We got now. Granted, we already have Mandy involved in here, but I think Vince is cooled on Mandy or something because she's definitely not getting the love she was for a little while there. Just pointing that out. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the women's tag team division. Like I said, I think we're going to see a fatal four-way at SummerSlam. As far as Bayley and Ember, I'm sorry, Ember out-wrestled everyone in this match and even out-promoted Bayley backstage. Bayley just came across as being very flat. I hate to say it. But speaking of blondes, Nick, we can't get out of this without talking about some blondes because Trish Stratus came out on King's Court. Of course, if you're in Memphis, Tennessee, you got to have Jerry Lawler come out, and he did. And, of course, everyone loved him because it's freaking Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
But King's Court, he had Trish Stratus out to apparently talk about how she was a mom now. and her Instagram.
She's a mom and she does yoga and Instagram. Yay.
Cool. But this got real interesting when Charlotte came out to the ring and started being nice and snarky with Trish. We mentioned last week that it was going to be Trish versus Charlotte at SummerSlam. This week, it happened. Charlotte confronted Trish, challenged her. Trish said no. Charlotte said, well, that doesn't surprise me because you can't hang with us young ladies. And Trish said, yes, I can. Now we have a match. Are you excited for Trish versus Charlotte at SummerSlam?
Yeah. As a one-off exhibition, legend versus arguably the top woman in WWE, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's arguable. I'd say that the way that they're treating Charlotte, like they're putting all of the rubs on Charlotte. Beats Asuka's streak, Charlotte. Most reigns as the women's champ, Charlotte. Main eventing almost everything, Charlotte. Getting the rub off of Trish, Charlotte.
Yep.
So, yeah, I really have no more to say than that. Is that this is just one more passing of the torch to Charlotte.
Going into Evolution 9 months ago, I would have told you it was going to be Alexa Bliss with the way they were setting up the match there. And unfortunately, due to her injuries, but I mean, Alexa Bliss was on a tear. They're kind of under the guise of Becky Lynch's rise. Alexa Bliss was doing fantastic until she got injured and started getting tingly fingers and all that. Yeah. This makes all kinds of sense to me. Charlotte's probably going to have more championship reigns than her daddy by the time we get done.
Probably. That being said, here's my take on it, Nick. I really don't care about the match, but at the same time, I get why they're doing this. This is money. This is, it's a money match. It's a draw. It's a draw match. This is
how you draw. Yes.
Absolutely. So it will be something. I'm curious if it will be a retirement match for Trish, if she's going to hang it up after this and pass the torch to Charlotte. Curious to see how that works out. We mentioned Dolph Ziggler could not keep Goldberg's name out of his mouth. Once again, that was the case on SmackDown. He also had a match with Finn Balor where he beat Finn Balor, but only because Finn Balor was distracted by a sudden appearance by The Fiend, who basically showed up. Finn got distracted, as baby faces do when heels show up to surprise them.
Right.
And then he ate a super kick, 1, 2, 3. This was also prefaced by a Firefly Funhouse where, as you mentioned, Ramblin' Rabbit was trying to spill the beans. He said he really liked Finn, but Finn didn't know what he was up against with The Fiend. And he tried to tell everyone what the Funhouse really was, but then got scared off by a very not kid-friendly looking Bray Wyatt, who then smiled and then really creepily said, "Let me in. Let me in."
It was the R-rated Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I'm going to make more rabbit jam out of you, boy. Yeah. So, again, do you still think it looks like Man Finn at SummerSlam, or are we going to get Demon?
You're not going to get Demon yet, I think. I think I wanted that to be it, but one of them would have to lose. And I think Man Finn can lose and put The Fiend over. And then what I would do is just continue to have The Fiend beat everybody, come back around to Man Finn, and maybe at Survivor Series, maybe all the way to Rumble. You could have, maybe this goes all the way to Demon versus Fiend at WrestleMania next year. I could really see that get played all the way out.
If they can hold their jimmies until then, if they can just keep it in their pants all the way till then, yes, that is a WrestleMania match.
Are you listening, creative? I'm looking right into the camera at you guys.
And I'm going to point.
Just hold out on it. Just let it happen organically. It will. That you're doing fantastic so far. Just let it happen.
Even the world championship must fall. But no, I agree. Let's hold off on that. We'll probably put a belt on one of them for it. Yeah, that sounds way better. But in the meantime, we're still getting Fiend versus Finn at SummerSlam. Also looks like we're going to be getting Ali versus Nakamura, because Ali just beat Nakamura clean with a nice roll-up after dodging a couple of Kinshasas. It was a non-title match, though. So that means, I guess, he gets a title match now? Cool.
Please.
Give Ali give Ali a little bit of momentum.
Both those guys.
Both those guys. No, psyched about it. That's going to be a good match.
Yep.
Also, Alistair Black got himself an opponent for SummerSlam because once again he was back in his dark little room, which he said was his self-imposed prison. More gobbledygook from him. But he said he wanted another challenger. Cesaro was great, but now he wants someone new. Well, who should come along to say that he's just full of himself but Sami Zayn? So Sami Zayn versus Alistair Black at SummerSlam. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. That's going to be another one where Sami's going to put Alistair over hard. I still think that they're doing a god-awful job with Alistair's character. I think it's one of those things where he's going to survive it eventually. Just right now, it's dark times, and not in a good way. So here's, I'm gonna pose this, Nick. We're a little bit behind. I have to pose this question, just because of a lot of the information that's come out recently and over the years about how Vince thinks and how Vince perceives things and how his perception of the world and his perception of people colors how he writes the show or how he demands the show be written. Alistair Black is a very, very specific individual. He was a, dark, brooding, kind of black metal, esoteric guy back in NXT, right? And they portrayed him as being this very hyper-intelligent but brooding and a kind of iconoclastic character. Did Vince look at that and his how he's writing Alistair Black now as being kind of this whiny, a bit entitled, psychotic, but at the same time effective fighter? Is that how Vince sees those kinds of people? Is that why we're getting what we're getting from Alistair Black here? Is this Vince's perception of like the Hot Topic crowd?
If I can take it back even further, I remember a time when I was in LA and Alistair Black was first debuting, and we were sitting there, and we would literally stand up and go,
sure,
right, when
that entrance music,
and there were people just doing it in the crowd, and people would go nuts. And the dude had never said a word. He had never cut a promo. He had never done nothing until he got to the Velveteen Dream feud and started saying stuff. The tragic flaw of Alistair Black is the tone of his voice and his inability to cut legit promos where I believe him.
Well, initially, he got better at his wrestling voice. His initial wrestling voice was kind of like, "Hi, I'm Alistair Black, and I'm here to fight you tonight in this ring." And he since got the wrestling voice going on where he kind of got a little more gravelly, and now he kind of talks more like this. And so it got better. His promo work got better. It's one of the things we talked about consistently in NXT, is that his promo work got better. He was in developmental. He developed. But now, I see where you're going with this. Now all he does is talk.
Exactly. It's the exact opposite of what we fell in love with in Aleister Black. He was the silent killer that had this giant ethereal entrance that just made him look like some kind of crazy warlock fighter. Oh, God, it was everything I wanted. And
Black Sabbath's wet dream of a wrestler,
And then he started talking, and now it's the complete opposite because he's on the main roster, and he has to cut promo. Oh,
he's wearing a black polo shirt, Nick, a black polo shirt.
Yeah.
Alistair Black was wearing a black polo shirt. And
he
I'm
should have no shirt
offended.
on, just the cut, just the vest. That's it.
Triggered.
With spikes
triggered
and
by
skulls
that
and just stuff from
This is going to be it's going to be a running theme on the show is just how you and I are both like big metalheads, and we loved Alistair Black and their presentation of him in NXT. And it's so bad on the main roster. It's going to be fine. Just so no one thinks that we're reactionary here. We know it's going to be fine. He's doing well. He's getting over, and it seems like he's going to get through this. This is his Dusty Rhodes and polka dots phase. He'll make it work. He seems to be okay.
I don't know.
But goddamn, is it painful? It's painful to watch, Nick.
It is.
But that being said, Nick, we were mentioning NXT and the fact that Alistair Black was in NXT, and there's plenty to talk about in NXT this week. But to talk about that, we need to go discuss the wide world of wrestling.
Well, the moment has finally arrived, listeners.
Tyler Breeze! It's time for Tyler Breeze!
No.
No?
It's time for Jackson Riker.
Oh, God.
Whether you like it or not, listeners, you've been hearing me say it forever. Oh my God, he's getting a push, and I have not heard commentary put somebody over harder in the longest time than Mauro Ranallo and Nigel McGuinness putting over Jackson Riker this week in a match against Tyler Breeze. Now let's be clear. Tyler Breeze came out. We weren't sure who he was going to face. Then we saw it was going to be Jackson Riker of the Forgotten Sons.
That makes sense. They had some beef last couple weeks.
Fine. That's fantastic. I did not expect to hear from the commentary what I heard from the commentary. And boy, were they putting him over hard.
Well, they kind of had to, because he really doesn't get over by himself in the ring, Nick. So they had to put him over like that.
That's neither here nor there, because all of this was for naught.
Yes.
Just to set up another return.
And by the way, how can you hold on a second? How can you say he's getting a push? He lost clean to Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, but that was just to set up the return of Fandango.
Yes.
To reunite with Tyler Breeze. Breezango back together again in NXT.
Yep. During
I'm not
the
going to let
beatdown.
you get out of it that easy, Sir Ian Dangerous. What? I need to hear your honest thoughts on why the commentary was so high on Jackson Riker this week.
I just told you, because that's the only way they can actually put him over, because he's okay. As I've said before, you want my Jackson Riker spiel again? I'll give you my Jackson Riker spiel again. He's a look. He's a look, and it's a great look. I'll give you that. Beyond that, not a great worker, not a great ring. Certainly, I would never call him a ring general. He's fine. He's completely serviceable. But at the same time, he's not exciting. He's just a look. And I think they realize that. If Vince saw him, I'm sure Vince would think he could do a lot with him. And he might be able to. Booked right and sold right on commentary, Jackson Riker could probably go a significant distance. At the same time, it seems like they know what they have with him in NXT, where he's the big mook part of the Forgotten Sons. He's the heavy. And they're going to have him come in and act like a heavy and have the commentary, ooh and odd, how scary he is. And then when Tyler Breeze has a surprise win, it makes Tyler Breeze look even better by beating this supposed monster.
By skating out, by getting by.
Yeah, absolutely.
He barely escaped.
Well, you look at the two of them next to each other, and Tyler Breeze looks like a 6-year-old boy, and Jackson Riker looks like a man. By the way, so quick speculation. When Jackson Riker gets called up to the main roster, does he become Riker or Jackson? I'm just curious.
Riker's actually kind of cool. I'm fine with that.
Uh-huh. Should have a finishing move called Riker's Island. Just saying. I'm just, because he's
cynical.
He can be like a
so
prison.
Cynical.
I mean, maybe they can call him Nails. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, a prison guard named Nails. I like that. I mean, it's a prisoner. Big boss.
What do you think about the reunion of Breezango on the NXT roster? Where do you expect this to go? Is this tag team stuff, or are they going to be fighting on solo?
Tag team versus it's going to be tag team. It's going to be versus the Forgotten Sons. Cool, love it.
Street Profits, Forgotten Sons, all of it. Undisputed Era.
They will probably be the level below the title picture, which is Street Profits Undisputed Era right now. So you'll probably have Lorcan, Birch will be part of it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I can see them becoming part of that initially. They're certainly over as hell. People lost their minds when Fandango came back. Lost their mind. The entire audience was Fandangoing. I got him a bit emotional too. Like it was just such a like you could see everyone was so happy to see him. You could see he could barely contain how much it meant to him, and hugging Breeze and everything, and seeing those two back together. Yeah, it was a great moment.
I can't not call out what's going on in the chat right now. Everybody's trying to figure out what to call Riker, and when they came up with the Riker Experience.
Of course they did. The War Riker Experience machine.
Come on, guys.
Yes.
Come on. You guys know you love him too.
No, we all love to make fun of him.
Right.
So we also had the semis, part 2 of the semifinals of the Breakout Tournament. Bronson Reed versus Cameron Grimes. And kind of as expected, Cameron Grimes took this one. Was this the most underwhelming of the Breakout Tournament matches to you?
It was, actually, but I'm happy to see the outcome.
Yes, agreed.
I'll say that. And I never would have picked, I'm going to keep calling him Trevor Lee, never would have picked Trevor Lee to go to the final, to be honest. So
really?
Cameron Grimes. So I'm very surprised, very pleasantly surprised. North Carolina boy raise up. But at the same time, I wasn't as entertained with this one. I thought his first match that we saw was just baller. And then, we've had to deal with Gaza. Those are kind of the standouts for me. The first Trevor Lee match, first Cameron Grimes match, and then the ones with Garza, and then that's it. Like I haven't really enjoyed
everything that ACH did was great too.
Oh yes, absolutely. So it's been a little bit underwhelming of a tournament with a few high spots, a few high points for me. But I don't know. Even Bronson Reed versus Creepy McCreeperson was fantastic. Last week or 2 weeks ago. You talking about Garzadong, or who are you referring to?
I am absolutely not talking about Garzadong. Garzadong isn't creepy. Garzadong excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Garza Dong is not creepy in that way. It's disturbing. It makes me kind of recoil from the TV and go, oh dear God.
Yeah, put it away.
Put it away. I'm talking about Dexter Loomis.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Whew. You talking about up-and-comer with potential? Things. Dexter Loomis.
Stranger Things. Yeah. Also a great artist, by the way. If you go check out his Instagram, great artist.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. It looks like we're going to have Grimes versus Miles in the finals. I'm psyched.
Yeah, I'm in.
Sounds good. Who do you think's taking that one, Grimes or Miles?
I think Grimes is going to take it all, man, at this point.
Oh, look at this. And we have a competition. I've been saying Miles since the very beginning.
You have.
Y'all can check me. I've been saying Miles since the beginning, so we shall see. Another match we have coming up that I kind of think anyone's game. Mia Yim and Shayna Baszler. They had a little confrontation in the ring today. Shayna called Mia street trash. Mia said, no, I'm not, and then let Shayna walk away.
Nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh. Should this have ended in physicality, Nick, or was this?
It should have.
Did Mia Yim? Does she feel like a big enough deal at this point to face Shayna?
Yeah, the weird part was Shayna trying to be all street and hood against Mia Yim, and that was the awkward part of this. That to me, like, why go there? First of all, but at the same time, like, be who you are. You are a badass MMA fighter. Be that. Don't try to be something else to relate. I don't know. It's just, what's this stuff why is she trying to do this street hood stuff with Mia Yim? Is that part of Mia Yim's gimmick or character?
Mia Yim's, yeah, she's got like the whole, I was raised on the streets, man. I had to come up through hard times. Yeah.
Hard time, daddy, hard time.
She's coming, not them kind of hard times, then the hard times of the South.
The textile workers of America.
This the hard times of the West Coast, man.
Now, if she had done that, if she had pulled the Dusty promo out, I would have,
Oh, man. That would have been good. That would have been good. But that being said, that was not what she did. She wore an NWA shirt and came to the ring and stared down Shayna. I'm curious to see this match. I'm not sure.
I don't know that they're going to let anybody beat Shayna.
Well, given the history of the people that she's beaten already, I don't feel like Mia is the one. And I think that they desperately need Shayna on the main roster at this point. They need someone who feels legitimate and has a presence and is a star, and that's Shayna. They need someone to stand up to Becky's level. But, I don't know who they're going to put the belt on. I don't think Mia feels like a big enough deal yet. I really don't.
We thought it was going to be Bianca Belair. I still think it might be Io Shirai, but with her turning and going as dark as she is, the heel thing doesn't work.
Yeah. It'd be weird to have another heel champ.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of heel champs.
So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing anymore. I don't think it's Mia either. I don't think they're going to take it off of Shayna, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out at Takeover Toronto coming up very soon. Also at Takeover Toronto, we're going to have a triple threat. Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong, and Velveteen Dream. We got a preview this week. Pete Dunne finally getting his hands on that bastard Roderick Strong after all this time, ever since he was betrayed when they were a tag team. And Roderick Strong joined the Undisputed Era. Oh, this was a baller match. Nick, if I hadn't been watching so much G1, this would have absolutely been my match of the week. And frankly, this felt kind of like a G1 match with how nasty and hard and stiff they were to each other.
This is how you wrestle. All you superstars that are listening, this is how you wrestle. That's how you wrestle from now on. Oh, God, it made me remember all of those great matches they had over the last year. During that feud prior to Roderick Strong jumping over to the Undisputed Era. This and then Dream coming out at the end. Oh, yeah, I can't wait
Dream
for this
coming out
match.
at the end, by the way, and posing, but then after, so you got Pete Dunne who breaks Roderick Strong's hand and then proceeds to wrench on the broken fingers until Roderick Strong submits. Ow! And then Dream comes out to pose in the ring, and freaking Dunne just lays him out, too, with a bitter end. And Dunne just stands at the end kind of shrugging like, well, yeah, I'm a bad man. What? I killed them both. Bruiser White. Chew on my knuckles. Chew on my belt.
I brought your fingers.
Got a bear on my knee. That's right. I'll kill you all. What? I don't speak loud. I speak soft. I don't know why he became a Beatle. He's not. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm all in on this match, too. Give me this. Put it in my face. Put it in my eye holes.
Yeah.
Done. Good stuff.
I got to admit, I never saw Pete Dunne coming here. I thought this was going straight Velveteen Dream, Roderick Strong. They're going to strap Roderick Strong to fulfill the Undisputed Era prophecy. I'm all in now.
I don't know.
Pete Dunne's in it? Yes, give it to me.
All I know is after this, how do you pin Pete Dunne? It's got to be Strong or Dream getting pinned in this match because, man, Dunne just looked way too strong in this match. I don't think you're going to pin him. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out. We've also got Io Shirai and Candice LeRae confirmed for TakeOver Toronto. Regal made the match after Candice LeRae was standing outside of the Performance Center looking all glum. And then we also have Matt Riddle and Killian Dane coming up next week on NXT. Give that to me now. It's too bad it won't be on TakeOver because that is a TakeOver quality match.
It should be on TakeOver. Like, why are they giving it to us? Hopefully it's a schmoz finish or some kind. And please make this a TakeOver match and let those boys go 20 to 30 minutes.
Yep, I'd be down with that. Speaking of letting the boys go, 205 Live. Let's go over and talk about 205 Live, Nick. We had Mike Kanellis and Drake Maverick in their unsanctioned match this week. Drake Maverick getting back in the ring and actually wrestling, not like the intergender match on Monday, which was kind of a quick joke. This was an actual full-length 20-plus minute match.
Y'all remember Spud, right?
Yeah. If you forgot that Drake Maverick is actually a really good wrestler, if you done forgot, go check out 205 Live this week. This match was awesome.
And if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know, man. This was fantastic. Hot fire. But it looks like afterwards Drake said, nope, I'm going to go back to be the GM. I'm not going to be wrestling regularly. It's just kind of a once in a while thing, which is unfortunate. He did pick up the win here with an acid drop. Spike Dudley, shout out. Acid drop off of the top rope on Mike Kanellis, reversing what looked like was going to be some sort of power bomb. But yeah, great match. Highly recommend to check this out. As we often do at 205 Live, it was a great show.
I really hope this gets absorbed into NXT at some point. Like we were debating last week that if NXT goes to FS1, they could extend it an hour and bring 205 Live into this and just absorb it, consolidate. Man, I hope that's the case. I really hope they do that.
Or they make a 2-hour show of it or something when they go to FS1. You know what I mean?
It's so good, man.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job with a lot of these guys. Even though some of the other stuff that was going on was, it was just kind of there. Like, for example, we had Akira Tozawa and Brian Kendrick versus the Singh brothers. It was fine. Lindsay Dorado and Arya Daivari. It was fine. And we had a little segment where Drew Gulak doesn't have a SummerSlam opponent. All that was fine because the main event was just so damn good. And they do a lot of good builds for the main events. So right now it's rumored only Lorcan versus Drew Gulak at SummerSlam. Are you in?
That's a very that's a opposite ends of the spectrum of styles.
Do you think so? Because I think Gulak's been going more towards like the hard striking, like gritty mush mouth kind of, not mush mouth, smash mouth. Mush mouth. Sasha Banks.
Hit him in the mush.
Smash mouth style of wrestling match. Do you think like that's, because I think that's what we're going to see if we see Lorcan Gulak. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker.
Oh, hell yeah, it will be. Just running uppercuts into the corner. Yeah, I expect we'll get all kinds of stuff. And even Lorcan has some great submission moves as well. So that could be a fantastic match. So yeah, I'm all in on that one. Yeah, and it would make, I don't think Lorcan's winning it, so it would make Gulak look very legit if he had this match with Lorcan. So give it to me. Nick, it is time. It is time. You guys strapped in? You got a fresh drink? You ready to go? Because it's G1 time. Everybody, if you're not caught up, take a deep breath, comb your hair. Yeah. Because it's time to talk about New Japan, and it's time to talk about the G1. So if you don't know, New Japan is booked by Gato. And if you didn't know Gato was a genius, then this week was evidence of his genius. Because over the course of 2 days, he went from having everyone convinced that two guys were going to run away with this tournament to setting everything on fire and everything being insane. We went from thinking Kazuchika Okada was going to dominate A Block, which it still looks like he is, to being actually kind of vulnerable at the top. He has eliminated half of the field in A Block, but half of the field is still very much in this. Whereas in B Block, with one match and one loss, we have the very real possibility that over 5 guys could tie at the end of B Block. They could be tied, because one match went down weird. Unreal, dude. It's like all of B Block has the same points except for like 2 guys. 3 guys. Absurd. Yeah, or 3. So 3. Let's break it down here. A Block. Okada beat Archer on night 11.
By doing that, he has mathematically eliminated Ospreay, Archer, Fale, Sabre, and Sonata from contention. He's won so many. He's got 12 points. That means that Fale with 2, Sabre with 4, Sonata with 4, Ospreay with 4, Archer with 4, they're all out. Evil has 6, so he's barely hanging on. But basically, everyone has to lose, and he's going to win everything for him to. Evil's pretty much out. So this is. I've got to bring up all of my spreadsheets and everything. Like this is like.
I could just see that picture of what's his name on there. It's Always Sunny with his, red yarn.
It's what it looks like over here. All of my G1 notes for all this stuff. It's stupid. All right, so Evil still has to face Okada.
Yeah.
He's not beating Okada.
He's not beating Okada.
Evil's got to face Archer, Okada, and Ospreay.
That said, I never would have said Toru Yano was going to beat Naito, but he did.
Yeah. Toru Yano. Didn't I warn you when we were doing our G1 preview? You were like, oh, yeah, Toru Yano probably make 2 or 4 points. I'm like, no. Toru Yano is the great spoiler. Toru Yano is the great burner of blocks. He's the one that destroys your pick'ems. And sure enough, that son of a bitch did it again this year. But we're still in A block. We're not talking about him yet. Oh, we'll get to him. So, so we've got half the field out. Okada still has to face Evil, Ibushi, and Sonata. Kenta, who's still in contention with 8, has to face Bad Luck Fale, Sabre, and Ospreay.
Right.
So all of those guys are reasonably beatable. Ibushi probably the biggest challenge for Okada. I think that Kenta should be able to go, and of course, I think Kenta should be able to go through Fale, Sabre, and Ospreay pretty safely. So he's only 4 down on Okada. So he might be able to come back with that. Ibushi, on the other hand, has to face Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., and Tanahashi. So Ibushi's got an uphill climb to even be in this at all at this point. Whereas Tanahashi has to face Ibushi, but I think he's got to face Fale and Ospreay, who are very vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
So Tanahashi actually could go back to, like, he could actually still be in this and face Okada in the A block finals.
Okay.
Or he could at the end of all of this, he might be able to actually tie Okada, and then Okada has the tiebreaker, obviously, from the first match. So that theoretically could happen. And just for giggles and shits, I figured out what Evil has to do here. Evil has to beat Okada, Kenta, and Ibushi, and Tanahashi has to lose everything.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Everyone's gonna lose it. No, Evil's out. So that's A block. Okada's still looking like he's on top, but a little bit vulnerable depending on what Ibushi, Kenta, and Tanahashi do in the next couple of nights. Yep. Over in B block, however, Jon Moxley, undefeated since he left WWE, has now been defeated by Toru goddamn Yano. It was a count-out victory. He was counted out. Oh, the look on his face. So now Moxley has 12 points, and pretty much the entire rest of the B block field has 6 points.
10 points. You said 12, I think.
So Jon Moxley has 10 points. Excuse me. Thinking of Okada. Everyone else in B block has 6 points except for Taichi and Shingo Takagi, who are mathematically eliminated. So Taichi and Shingo out. Bye. But Jay White, Jeff Cobb, Goto, Naito, Toru Yano, Ishii, and Juice Robinson are still completely 100% in this, and they are all masters of their own destiny. And we don't have time for me to go over all of the math I did to figure out who could still get into this. But I will put it this way. The likely people to win this still, the likely people to be in contention with Moxley for the finals are Naito and White. I think that's just conventional wisdom, right? Jay White, Tetsuya Naito. They're still very much in this. Naito still has to face Jeff Cobb, who's very beatable. He has to face Shingo Takagi, who's also LIJ. If he can't beat an LIJ member, why is he the leader of LIJ? And he's got to face Jay White on the last night of the tournament. And that's important because that's always when the things really go down, is on the last night. And if Naito and White are tied at the end and the winner could potentially beat Moxley, that could be very dramatic. That could be Gato booking right there. So Moxley at this point is very vulnerable. One loss, he's suddenly very vulnerable. He must win one match and tie one match to take the block. That's where he's at right now. He's got to win at least 2.
Who are his remaining opponents?
This is where it gets Scary.
Because I want to put it out there right now. I'm still on the Ibushi Naito train.
Oh, dude, that's still mathematically possible, Nick.
It is still possible. It is
still
not out of the question.
Possible.
But
still,
I'm going to ride that train off the cliff. I still think Ibushi Naito in the final.
It could still happen. But no, Moxley's got to face Goto, Juice Robinson on the last night, and he's also still has to face Jay White. So if Jay White does some skullduggery and ties Moxley, and then everyone expects Robinson to get his win back on the final night, that's a tie and a loss. If he loses to White and then beats Robinson, depending on what happens with Goto, that's the entire tournament right there.
I think he loses to White and Robinson.
Right. And then
Robinson gets his title opportunity because
and then he's vulnerable. He's very vulnerable.
And then Naito wins the B block.
If White could win his other two. He could beat Naito. Yeah, no, White, because think about it. White could beat
White's
Naito.
Not gonna win out.
And he could beat Juice Robinson as well. If White beats Robinson, Naito, and Moxley, he wins. If Moxley doesn't win, at least against Goto or Robinson.
I don't think Jay White's going to win out. I don't see that happening at all. Talk to me about Naito. Who are Naito's remaining matches?
I don't know. I could see White in the finals. I really could.
That's what. Don't do that. That's what I did last year. Don't do it.
Yeah, Evil's in another block now, though, dude. There's no way out for him now. No, that's what I'm saying. This is madness at this point. There's so many possibilities. We went right when you thought that Moxley was running away with it. Toru Yano comes around and screws everybody up.
Well, humor me. Humor my train that I'm riding. Who are Naito's remaining three?
Naito's remaining three are Jeff Cobb, very beatable. Shingo Takagi, as I said, LIJ. Why are you going to – and then Jay White. So –
Naito, baby. Let's go.
Naito. But that's what I'm saying. He's gonna beat Cobb. He's going to beat Takagi. It means that it could come down to him and White on the last night. If White beats Moxley or ties him and beats Robinson, White could be going in also with 10 points.
B block is nuts.
B block is nuts. It's basically what it comes down to.
Hop on board the train, kids, because this is insane.
If you don't watch New Japan and you have just sat through all of this madness that we've just went over, this is the difference between the booking in WWE and New Japan. Is WWE talk about what people are thinking, how their performances are, how the match supported the story. In New Japan, it's like sports teams. It's like how so-and-so's got to beat so-and-so, but they had this problem over here. And it's much more of bracketology, and it can get nuts. It can get nuts. And it's honestly, for me, as a guy who gets really into this kind of stuff, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Plus, once you actually watch these, they're all fantastic matches. We had a bunch of fantastic matches over the last few nights. Archer versus Ibushi. Ibushi had to Kamigoye him twice to put him down. That was awesome. Kenta Okada was awesome. Call back to the very famous, some of the famous matches with Okada and Shibata, where at the end Kenta was open hand striking Okada in the face, and it was just absolute brutality. That was a fantastic match on night 9. Night 10, we had Ishii versus Juice Robinson. Ishii, as always, the MVP of this G1. Just go watch any of his matches. Awesome. They're all good. They're all good, including as I said, Ishii Robinson. There was what another good match? Ospreay and Sabre just had an absolute lights out match. Fantastic.
As you would expect from those two.
Yeah. And then last night we had Ishii Goto, which was, as it always is, a slobber knocker.
Yeah.
Just hoss fight. So lots of good stuff. Evil Tanahashi was really good. Evil Tanahashi. That was a good match. So much good stuff. So lots of good stuff to watch if you are into the New Japans.
Well, for that, I should also announce that for our August bonus episode, patrons, we're going to be doing some more for you this weekend. For our August show, once the G1 wraps up, we're going to be doing a full recap breakdown. Ian's going to get the red yarn out and show you how everything went down. That is going to be our August patron bonus episode.
I may lose my voice, Nick. I may lose my voice. That's okay. It'll just be payback for you when you finally deliver your booking
this weekend
of 2019.
It's coming, patrons. Heads up.
Oh, Lord. I'm bracing myself. Got to buy another bottle of tequila for that. All right, Nick, let's move on. That was the G1, and I'm sweating. I'm actively sweating from the G1 segment.
Oh, well, guys, it is that time to do our listener questions. And if you would like to get in on some of that action, you can send your questions in every single week for a very small contribution of $5 to our Patreon at patreon.com/BWO. Any of those tiers, $5 and higher, you can send us in questions every single week, and we will answer them right here on the show, such as this one from Andy. Can you guys clear something up that has long bugged me?
I don't know. I think you need medication for that. Oh, sorry.
Andy likes to ask these questions to preface this that turn into some kind of like bonus episodes.
Go ahead.
What's the deal with CM Punk? Why is he still over to the point that so many people chant his name or want him to come back? How is he any different than any other retired former champ? Andy, I don't know that I have the time in our weekly show to go into this one. But there's some simple answers. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'll summarize. I'll summarize because that is definitely analyzing the CM Punk phenomenon is definitely something that we could take a long time to do because there's a lot of levels to it. There's a lot of complexity to it. I think that you could attack it from the aspect of the kind of the people's champ aspect of him, where he was speaking truth to power in a time where a lot of fans felt disenfranchised. I think that there's, and also the way the WWE booked him for a while there, where he was kind of avenging the fans and what they wanted the booking to be. And also, just the things that he was saying were things that you just didn't hear in those times. But I think that there's also the fact that he was in a very engaging and charismatic character. That's the stuff where you really get kind of the typical former champ. He was very charismatic, larger than life. But what made CM Punk different was the fact that he was positioning himself as an anti-authoritarian in a new way, in a fourth wall breaking way, in a more realistic way, and people connected to that at the time. And I think that the CM Punk chants aren't necessarily "we want CM Punk" anymore. They're more of a protest chant.
Yeah,
it's more what he symbolized, because I think a lot of people have cooled on him because of what happened with him in MMA. And the fact that he got just roundly defeated twice. And I think a lot of people realized that his mouth was writing checks that his body just could not cash. And that as much of a badass as he presented himself to be in WWE, he really legitimately wasn't. He was a punk kid who liked to talk trash and happened to be doing so in a medium that rewarded you for being a big character,
right,
where you didn't actually have to go out there and genuinely fight. But so I think that some of it's cooled off. The luster is gone a little bit. But I think a lot of people still want him back because as far as pro wrestling goes, he can still be that guy that goes out there and talks trash in a way that people in pro wrestling want. And as a personality, he's still very functional. And if you support him by putting him in an environment where he doesn't have to genuinely fight, and you can get him over in that way, put him over in that way, he could still be worth money. That being said, just what we know about his real personality, I don't see it happening, and I don't know if it should happen because, I'm one of the people that's like, let him go. I'm on the side of let CM Punk go.
Yep.
But I definitely understand why a lot of people want him back. I just think that the people who want him back they're not considering things realistically.
Agreed.
Like what it would actually mean.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's just a protest thing. It's not that people actually want to see Phil back in the ring or with a microphone in his hand. As good as it might be, it's more of we're tired of this authoritarian bullshit. CM Punk, we're going to chant over the top of you just to be assholes because we can.
And I think there's some rose-tinted glasses looking at history when it comes to him right now. So
yeah, agreed. All right, Andy, thank you very much for the question. Next up, moving on to Aiden, our newest patron from Ireland. I'm not going to attempt it. You might be able to, but I'm not going to insult Aiden.
I wouldn't insult him by trying to do an Irish accent.
You can do a Scottish one pretty good, though.
Yeah. Still. Go on.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Aiden. Just as a point of order, though, we do one question, but we'll give you a pass this one since it's your first time. We'll give you a little treat. They are legitimately burying Goldberg on WWE TV. This is unique. So we have Goldberg versus Dolph at SummerSlam. I think it's fair to say Goldberg shouldn't knock his head on the door, avoid blood, couple of spears, very quick match, and win and retire. Do you agree, Ian?
Yes.
Yep. Goldberg should not mess up
totally.
SummerSlam match with Ziggler, quick match and retire.
Boom.
Right.
Yes. Done.
Jimmy Uso.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, agree with that too. Jimmy Uso. I tend to share viewpoints here as far as this goes. I'm disgusted by this DUI. He says this is not funny. I know of people who have died by being hit by people under the influence. So do I. I was actually hit head on myself by a drunk driver. Luckily, I was in a giant SUV, and it was more like a boom. Not so much for his car, though. This is not funny. I know of people that have died by being hit, yes. Very poor on WWE's behalf. I believe Jimmy has a problem and should be suspended and forced to go to rehab 6 months with no pay. He could have killed somebody. This one's a little personal to me. I have had friends. In high school, I had a friend that died by... not only he was in a car with someone that had been drinking, and as teenagers you don't make the best decisions, so he got into a car with somebody that was really drunk. They went around the wrong turn, and instead of turning they went straight off the road and head on into a tree at about 80 miles an hour. It sucks. It's one of the worst things in the world to find out the next day at school. I completely agree that I don't know if it should affect. I think it's not WWE's responsibility to criminally punish him, although normally what happens in the workplace, whether you're a contractor or not, is that you are suspended until things are settled. We did this with Rich Swann with the domestic violence case. They suspended him, arguably with pay, I believe, until they settled his thing, and then they excused him, and he left. So I don't think Jimmy Uso should have been out wrestling this week. I agree with you there. It kind of frustrates me, the WWE, but this is not new. So I don't know what to think about here. I know exactly what I would do if I were Vince or if I were the head of creative or talent relations.
Would you do what he's suggesting, which is suspend him for 6 months and fine him?
I would at least suspend him until he got done with his court stuff. He's going to have to go. This is not his first DUI. That means he's going to get his license suspended. He's going to have to do probably 30 days in jail. He's going to have to do all kinds of stuff.
Or his first altercation with the law. I remember earlier this year we had the incident where he actually, stepped up to cops when Naomi got pulled over. So
yeah. He does not need to be wrestling right now. He needs to go handle his shit. And if he needs to be forced to do that by WWE, then that's what needs to happen. So Butters just said this is 3 strikes. I know that's a year suspension, and you're doing jail time for 30 days minimum. So why is he on TV?
Because it depends on how the DUI itself was handled, and I'm trying to really quickly see how if it was dismissed or like if he was just pulled over and had it thrown out or what it was. I'm not finding anything about what legally is happening with him right now. I do know this. WWE doesn't always work quickly.
No.
There is reported a lot of backstage disappointment with him, and that is becoming a pattern. When you have someone who it seems to be that drinking of all of the things when it comes to WWE is the least frowned upon. If you look at Alicia Fox, she's still involved. JBL, there's a lot of people who have drinking incidents, and they work through them.
Stone
not
Cold
necessarily
was out
DUIs.
last week bragging about getting hammered with Ric Flair and all the Godfather and all the guys, and Ron Simmons.
Again, different eras entirely. I'm talking about the modern era right now. It was, but again, we're in a different culture now. But
I want to be clear and say that drinking in a hotel bar with some of your old friends is a lot different than driving a car while intoxicated. Exactly.
So there may be time off for the Usos coming, and it may not be something that's happened yet. We don't know if WWE if all they're doing is a slap on the wrist, you're eating the pin and that's it, or if they have other plans where they're like, okay, we're going to write you off TV for a while, get your ish together. Yeah. So until we really see how this falls out, if this is something, frankly, that gets swept under the rug, he eats a pin, and that's all that happens, and then in 6 months he gets another DUI or worse, then this is absolutely going to be something that we're going to look back and say WWE should have done something before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I'm really unhappy with the fact that they're letting this kind of stuff slide. We don't know the whole story. We don't know what his BAC was, or if there were mitigating circumstances, or what the deal is. But I have to say that it does feel to me like it's being taken too lightly.
Yep.
So.
Last but certainly not least, from Aiden here, he says, I'm Irish. I love Becky, but I believe she's on the way down. She'll beat Natalya, but it won't tear the house down. The crowds cheer less and less. Sorry to say, 6 months, I see her back where she was before the push, sadly. A match with Nia Jax might prolong it, but she does nothing for me now. I think her outfit is bad, too. What are your thoughts on the current state of Becky Lynch, Sir Ian Dangerous?
I'm not mad at her outfit. It's quite a bit better than her god-awful steampunk thing that she was.
Yeah.
But before this turns into nobody's watching wrestling, I would say this, that I agree in the sense that I feel like she's cooling off a bit. It does feel like that. I think that has to do with the opponents they're giving her. I also don't feel like they're putting her in a position to act like a badass in the way that she should be. If you look at how they're giving Kevin Owens opportunity to act like a badass, or even Seth Rollins to a certain extent, I don't think they're giving Becky the same opportunities, or they're having these muddled, quote unquote, badass moments, like where she comes out and attacks Natalya and looks like a bully for doing so. It felt weird. So I agree. I feel like she's cooling off a bit. I'm not saying that the writing's on the wall and she's doomed. But it's definitely not looking good. I think they can still pull her up. I think that there's plenty of time to pull her up and get her heat back. And I think that there's still plenty of goodwill for her.
Yeah.
I don't think she'll ever go back to where she was before she punched Charlotte. I really don't think she will. Too much has happened. Her perception has changed. She's now one of the top 2 women in WWE, if not the top one. I think it depends on the pay-per-view and the day. So, in that sense, I think her perception has changed fundamentally for the fans and for the organization. And I think if she starts cooling off too much, they're going to take some drastic measures with her.
You can trace the beginning of the fall back to the Nia Jax punch at Survivor Series.
That's the beginning of the rise. The beginning of the fall was her losing one of the championships at WrestleMania. Frankly, it was the botched finish at WrestleMania, I think, and then immediately losing the second belt and not being Becky 2 belts for longer would be my opinion.
I'm going to disagree with you there. The beginning of the fall was the Nia Jax punch at Survivor Series. She was not able to compete. She was not able to continue to build.
That was part of her legend. She only got hotter and hotter.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
You're so wrong.
And then what they did with inserting Charlotte into the whole thing, post Asuka, post TLC in December, and then post Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble thing was great. I thought that was the moment where they were going to rise it back up, and then they insert Charlotte into the whole thing. And yeah, you had Becky 2 belts at Mania, but even then, by that point, it was already flat and downhill for me. It needs something, and I'm going to go on a stretch here and say, it needs to be something that's not Charlotte, not Asuka. It needs to be
Shayna Baszler.
It could be. I was going to say Ronda Rousey if Ronda ever comes back. Or
we got at least 9 more months.
Stretch and say it could be really good with Nia Jax if they tell the story right and make it about the punch at SummerSlam and that she never got hers back.
I've come back to break your face again?
No.
And I'm gonna punch you? No? Not a fan? And hi Becky, I've come back and I'm not like most girls? No?
Maybe we make you sing the Nia Jax theme song if
I'm
we get
just
to
saying.
1,000.
I'm just saying. I know you can see it. That's why it hurts.
Yeah, the Becky thing is hard, man. I think everybody's got a different opinion on it. I think everybody has different fandom levels around it. I'm at a point now where it's kind of like, okay, she's still champion.
I mean,
by the way, did you know she's dating Seth Rollins?
No. What? I had no idea. Actually, our chat is weighing in, and It seems like everyone actually has a different time for when they're losing it with where they feel like she started on the downhill skid. Some people are saying it's post WrestleMania. Like you said, the Seth relationship, Lacey Evans, Esmeralda Soto says it was when she got the belt, or the belts, which is kind of. I think it's shortly after that. I think it's when she lost the second belt. But yeah, I think everyone has different times. I personally think when she got punched by Nia, people still make shirts of that, of her covered in blood. Like, that was a huge moment for her.
It was.
But let's also step back here, and before we get too crazy about this, and realize that wrestling is not just week to week or month to month. It's year to year. And Becky's going to have a long story here, I feel. And, you know, even if it's easy to go back and look and say that Bret Hart got successful overnight, Stone Cold got successful overnight, Undertaker got successful overnight. They had rises and falls, and they had periods where they cooled off as well along that path. So it's I think it's likely that they could turn this around, and Becky just needs to find a new person to feud with, a new catchphrase, a new attitude, some sort of moment maybe to recapture people's imagination. I don't think that she's fallen so far that people are ready to just dump her or just not care about her anymore.
No. Wasn't implying that at all. I agree with you. There's ebbs and flows for everybody, and I think she's in one of the kind of the valleys right now, and she's probably going to peak again. You know, I expect her to end up in a leadership position going into Survivor Series here in a few months.
Sure. I'm speaking to Aiden saying that she's on the way down and saying, like, she may be, but I don't think that this is going to be a permanent thing and she's doomed. No. I think that she's
going to be a long-time staple of WWE.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Aiden, for the questions. Thank you for being our newest patron, and welcome to the Army. Appreciate it. Next up, we got Esme Standenbear. Everyone talks about top guys. And how
Revival. Oh, what?
FTR. And how WWE doesn't really have a definitive top guy. Or once they become champion, WWE kind of fumbles the ball so that they then cool down. In your opinion, what is the perfect recipe to make someone king of the mountain and to keep them there? The Rock.
Wow. That's a whole bonus episode right there. How do you make the king of the mountain in WWE?
What is the archetype? If you could assemble one in a factory.
Well, I mean, if you ask Vince, it's have them win everything.
Yeah.
But I would argue that has only brought him people booing Cena and Reigns one after the other. And in the case of Stone Cold, it just kind of, lightning in a bottle, really. But this is a tough question because it has not just to do with the person who you actually make the number one guy or girl, but also the perception of the fans, the culture at the time, and the fact that WWE, frankly, is scared of taking the bridle off of some of their people because Vince in the past has had people in WWE who got bigger than his company and left. And if there's one thing that he's terrified of, it's having his independent contractors exercise their independence and leave him. So he doesn't want people who are not loyal to get bigger than the company.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
that also breeds a kind of cookie cutterness to the top of the card because they all have to fit into Vince's mold of what a top guy should be. So the problem here is that if Esme is going to define this as a WWE top guy, that's a very different thing than, say, a Lucha Underground top guy or a Impact top guy or a New Japan top guy. Okada held on to a belt for over 2 years, and very few people had a problem with it because of how they booked him.
Asuka.
Or Asuka and NXT. It's possible to have someone have a long title reign and people not get sick of them.
Yeah.
Or at least understand why they've had a long reign. But that's not something that they do necessarily on the main roster unless it's Brock, and then he's a different animal than a top guy. I would say that when we refer to the, quote unquote top guy, we talk about people like Hogan or San Martino or Cena or Austin or Reigns. Those are people that WWE would consider, quote, top guys. They're number one dudes. So that's a very different element than most other companies just because of how Vince thinks of his company now. So it would be hard to, much like the CM Punk thing, it's hard to whittle that down in the limited time we have on this show.
Yeah.
But definitely in terms of the people that Vince considers top guys, you need to be able to talk a blue streak on the mic. And that's something that Roman actually, unfortunately, kind of failed at.
Big
was
time.
that he didn't really have those mic skills.
That's his missing link. That's his one thing.
Cena, I would argue, would be the closest thing to a, pardon the pun, prototype that really they ever had. I mean, he kind of had all of the aspects that they really wanted. He could murder on the mic. He could work a decent wrestling match. He was the kids loved him. He could do the say your prayers, eat your vitamins thing. The guy was a workhorse. He was one of the only guys in the company who was there at the same time as Vince and left at the same time as Vince, who could keep that schedule regularly. And that's something that people don't think about or forget about, is you need to be an absolute monster when it comes to motivation and when it comes to your schedule. You need to be able to keep up with the old man, basically. So and I'm sure I'm missing a bunch just because we're running out of time here, but there's a lot that you need to have just to even be able to fit into Vince's mold of what a top guy is. And that's even before you even get over with the audience and creative gives you a program that doesn't take the rug out from underneath you and make Vince lose confidence in you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a brutal position to be in.
My answer's simple. You said Cena, I say The Rock. It's whether he's heel or face, whether he's tweener or not, The Rock. The Rock is the prototype for me. When you again, and it prioritizes. The reason I say that, it prioritizes exactly what you said. Be an absolute monster on the mic. Have catchphrases that can go on every piece of merch possible. They will put the belt on you, and you're 6'5", 6'6", and have some bulk to you. You're a big enough guy to be believable, and you actually absolutely destroy everybody, including all of the backstage hands. The interviewers with Michael Cole interviewing The Rock in the late 90s might be some of the best TV ever. Just making fun of his frosted tips and just tearing it. Just awesome.
Calling Kevin Kelly Hermie, really? Yeah. Was that a highlight?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. No, but the problem with The Rock was he wanted to go be a movie star. He didn't want to be a pro wrestler. And Vince, that's something that Vince can't have. I agree. The Rock, prototypical. He's the perfect WWE main eventer. More so than Stone Cold. Right? Except that he wanted to go be a movie star, and he succeeded. And that's why he's known as Dwayne Johnson now.
The highest paid movie star in Hollywood.
I mean, yeah, the dude's a star.
That's legit.
And Vince felt him slip through his fingers.
And he's also one of the hardest working men in Hollywood for the
dude, just keep an eye on his social media. That guy is relentless. I don't even think he sleeps.
There's no way he sleeps.
Anyway. Up at 4 a.m. to work out. Yeah,
Esme, thank you very much for the question. Next up, we got Jacob. With the addition of Fandango to NXT, it seems more and more misused main roster talent are heading there. Who would you like to see get called back, and what program would you put them in?
I don't see anyone who's come down from the main roster except for Breezango, except for cameos. Like, they've had a couple of cameos, but they're the only guys who've come back as roster guys. They went back in the NXT roster. Well, Killian Dane. But was he even really on the main roster?
No, twice maybe.
Was he really on the main roster?
We couldn't see him because they wouldn't stop shaking the camera. So.
But yeah, I think though, if you're on the main roster and you're an Apollo Crews or someone like that, and you look at what they're doing with Breezango already and the reception that they're getting. Yeah, not as big of an audience, but my God, you go from being a very, very small fish in a very, very big pond to being a very, very big fish in a very, very small pond overnight. And I can imagine how that would be tantalizing. Plus, if you can really get your momentum, there it is again, your momentum going again in NXT, you might be able to go back to the main roster with a different kind of cachet. Because remember, all these guys had kind of botched debuts on the main roster. What if you could have a second chance? That's got to be tantalizing.
This is hard for me to say.
Uh-oh.
I think Heavy Machinery came up too early. I think they could have been NXT champions. NXT tag champions.
Yes, they could have, but they've also been used fairly consistently on WWE TV so far.
True.
I'd say of all of the NXT call-ups of the last 6 months, they're in the top 5 percentile of people who actually had stuff happen for them. Now, granted, they're doing the Bushwhackers thing, but at least they're doing something. They're not AOP.
The question was, who would you like to see come back down?
Oh, right. That was the question. Sorry.
Who would you like to see get called back, and what program would you put them in? I would bring Heavy Machinery back and have them win the NXT Tag Championships?
I would say AOP, but
oh yeah, that too.
Well,
That's
I mean,
even better, honestly.
if they hadn't already broken up Sanity, I would have said bring Sanity back down and have them. But Nikki's already doing something, and they got Killian back down there, so they already kind of did that for me. Trying to think who else is. Well, I mean, Alistair. Like we said, I think Alistair will be fine. They're just completely doing the wrong thing with him, but he'll be fine. I mean, Apollo Crews, I think, needed more time down there.
Yeah,
I think he's someone who they could bring back down, especially with the talent they have working down there. Apollo would be my pick, I think. If I really sat back and thought about it, I think Apollo's the guy who I think has the highest upside. And if you gave him more time to develop a character and had him put in some good work down there, I think he could go so much higher. Well, and then they had such high expectations for him, but they didn't give him enough time. So Apollo would be the one I would call out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Jacob, for the question. Finally, last but certainly not least, Kane. Hey guys, so with NXT TakeOver coming up, is it the time now to have Shayna Baszler drop her title and move to Raw to have a feud with Becky? Maybe not straight away, or have little confrontations here and there to build to a bigger pay-per-view. Everyone says there isn't anyone on Becky's level, and I reckon Shayna Baszler would be a killer person and super believable to beat or hang with the man. Also still super salty that McIntyre isn't going for the title yet. Him beating Brock would be awesome. P.S. I haven't watched wrestling this week because I'm super busy, so if my question is not relevant, please... Okay.
That was very relevant.
It was very relevant.
We actually touched on it.
For someone that hasn't watched it.
It's very relevant. I absolutely think. I mean, we talked about this, Nick. I think Becky needs a Shayna or someone like that,
a foil.
Like someone who's legit, a legit foil. We can go into a longer term program with. I think they had to bring Shayna up by Survivor Series at the latest, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're going to have a situation like Aiden's talk about where Becky's going to continue to decline. I think one great way to bring her back is to give her a good opponent, excuse me. And Shayna is like kind of where Ronda Rousey was when she left, which is, evil MMA chick. Only she's way more evil and believably so.
Yeah.
So, and just have these two tear each other apart. Yep. Sold. Absolutely agree.
Yep. Completely agree as well. Thank you guys very much, Kane, for the question, and thank you all for your questions every single week. We love them here. Again, reminder that we will be making a bit of a transition in October, but until then, we're doing them right here on the show. If you'd like to get yours in for now, patreon.com/BWO. Sign up for one of those awesome reward tiers. It is the best way to get access to some exclusive stuff of the Busted Wide Open podcast that you can't get anywhere else. Patreon.com/BWO. But Ian, whoa, God, we're just about done. We actually finished closely on time this week.
Woo! Yeah, all right.
But we've got just enough time for our other news lightning round.
Lightning round. Okay. All right. Here we go. On the top, I got to talk about the fact that Jerry Lawler is filing a wrongful death lawsuit against Hardeman County Sheriff John Doolin and others who were involved for the death of his son, Brian Lawler, who died last year. Jerry is seeking $3 million in compensation because he says that the numerous failures of the county and its employees that resulted in the wrongful death of his son. You may recall that Brian was found hanging from his solitary confinement cell after being picked up for drug violations. And Lawler is saying that he had spoken directly to the arresting sheriff and the staff, and said, keep an eye on my son. He's not well right now. He's having a depressive episode. His meds aren't working. Keep an eye on him. And apparently there was some studs that were in the ceiling that they hadn't filed down, some bolts, and he was able to hang himself by his shoelace. Although Jerry Lawler still believes that he didn't actually suicide. Something else went on because he had a wound above his eye, and there's some other screwy things going on. But Jerry Lawler suing Hardeman County and the Hardeman County Sheriff for the wrongful death of Brian Christopher. Chris Van Vliet and Marco Stunt have signed with AEW. Chris Van Vliet and Marco Stunt to AEW. You heard it here nearly first. So we got Marco Stunt, who is, I can only really describe as a 5-year-old boy. looking wrestler.
Yeah.
So he got signed. He's very entertaining. I've seen him live. He's quite entertaining. But apparently Gunnar Miller, who's also a pro wrestler and former football player, not a fan, said online that he has been working in pro wrestling for years and years and years and can't believe that this kind of crap is what people actually want these days. And everyone proceeded to shit on Gunnar Miller's head. It's like, what have you done, Gunnar? So Chris Von Vliet is also an interviewer. He'll be an interview with AEW. So a couple of good signings there. Speaking of signings over in Impact, Tenille Dashwood, a.k.a. Emma, has finally signed with Impact. She's no longer with Ring of Honor, which is probably the best thing because Ring of Honor, the rats are leaving the sinking ship. And Impact, Tenille Dashwood in Impact is a great thing. Their women's division is fantastic over there. So she will get the chance to show off her skills.
And before
Tessa Blanchard.
And before Tenille versus Tessa.
Put it in my eye holes. Joey Ryan, who we mentioned a lot in the show. Well, there's another reason to mention Joey Ryan this week because his match with Miranda Ali's for the Queens of the Ring promotion has nearly 10 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
That is insane. Just for a comparison, like high numbers for WWE segments are around 3 to 5 million. So this is insane. Now, granted, I went and looked at it just to see what was going on. There's a lot of Indian comments. I suspect they've kind of farmed this out to the and frankly, this is also Click Farms, perhaps a little bit of click farming going on there. And also, this is a match where Joey Ryan actually has a lollipop stuck up his butt. It's a Joey Ryan match. It's a Joey Ryan match. I'll put it that way. So, but 10 million views. So good, dude. Good for Joey Ryan. For a guy who consistently gets put down by some of the old schoolers in wrestling, the dude finds a way to make that money and get those views. So props to him. Yep. Walter versus Tyler Bate has been confirmed for NXT UK Cardiff, August 31st. I've seen Walter versus Tyler Bate before, never for the UK title, obviously. I cannot wait to see them go at it again. He's going to cave the poor boy's chest in.
That is filet mignon of a match right there.
That's with butter, extra steak butter. King Cuerno, otherwise known as El Hijo de Fantasma, looks like he's heading to WWE finally in September. You may have seen him last in Impact over in AAA. He is now going, it looks like, to WWE. So prepare to see him in September, and he will show people what a tope suicida really freaking is.
Yes.
That dude is awesome. Also, he's good English, so he could go a long way as a Latino star. So I'm excited about that. I wonder if
he'll still do that. What was the thing where he shot the arrow?
Yeah, the arrow from the depths of hell. His tope suicida. They just went like halfway through the audience every time he did it. It was absolutely unbelievable. WCPW's Defiant Wrestling, where we've seen some classic matches, is done. They are shuttering it after only 4 years of being in business. But their archives are still up online. I think you can see it on YouTube or on their homepage. They had a lot of great matches. Some people who are now WWE superstars did some incredible matches over there. So too bad Defiant was pretty decent while it was going. I think they got actually murdered because of YouTube and how it remonetized wrestling. That's when the downhill slide really happened.
Okay. Adpocalypse.
Exactly. Over at the PC this week, the Performance Center, there was a guest trainer you may have heard of. He's got a couple of fangs permanently implanted into his face, and his name was Gangrel.
The viscous liquid.
Yes, the viscous liquid. He was over there training people at the PC. I'm curious to see if he sticks around and becomes a full-time trainer. A lot of like old school guys have been doing that, and I think Gangrel's got a good wrestling mind. So I know people who've gone through his school, and they say he's a fantastic trainer. So that's awesome. Good to see Gangrel's one of my favorites from, by the way, possibly the best entrance music and best entrance of all time in WWE. Throwing that out there, Gangrel. WWE has hired Ring of Honor's Chris Resnick. If you don't know that name, he was the director and producer for TV for Ring of Honor for 10 years. And Ring of Honor actually did some pretty good, solid TV. So WWE picking him up, I think, is a fantastic move. So welcome Chris Resnick to WWE. And finally, Simon Gotch. Remember him? A.K.A. Simon Grimm, A.K.A. shoots hard on Enzo Amore. Remember that horrible? Well, he's back shooting hard on people. He just shot hard on Dave Meltzer when he was asked how many stars he thought a triple threat between him, CM Punk, and Elijah Burke would get. He responded, "I don't believe in star ratings. Meltzer is an idiot, and the only smart thing that could come out of his mouth would be a bullet that entered through the back of his head."
Oh!
Well, now we know why a lot of people don't like to work with him, because apparently he's a dick. And that's the news.
Dude, that's too much.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, in the good grief. In the words of Powers Booth, Simon, well, bye. Bye.
Thank you very much, Surrey and Dangerous, for the lightning round. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today on the Busted Wide Open podcast. Thank you for hanging with us, live audience here on YouTube, through the technical difficulties at the beginning. Going to get that stuff fixed up soon. Just trying to run all this on a laptop just doesn't work out too well. Even though the command center looks big, it's all running off of a laptop until I get this giant rig built back here. But that's coming soon.
Got a Starship running on an outboard motor.
Right, exactly. Right. And it doesn't work out well, as you all witnessed at the beginning of the show this week. But we will get all that stuff sorted out. Do not forget to head over to the Gleam giveaway. I'll post a link in the show notes for this episode, as well as down in the description below of the video here, as well as if you're in the Facebook discussion group, you guys can see the announcement in there. We'll post it up across all the social medias on Instagram and Twitter. I believe it's all already out there while we were doing the show here. But be sure you've got till the end of August, right? Every account that you confirm that you're following or subscribe to, you get 5 entries up to, I believe it's 25 entries into the grand drawing every single month. We're gonna try it out this way for the month of August, and we may spice it up a little bit more as we go.
All I know, Nick, because I barely understand what you just said.
Yep.
All I know is go to this website. Make sure you click all the boxes that you're following us on everything. You get entered into a contest. You win prizes.
Yes.
That's all I know.
That's it.
And then if enough people do that, then you and I both have to sing the entrance songs of our least favorite wrestling superstar in the world.
No, they get merch. Hang on. They get merch once they get thrown into an entry for merch stuff.
Right, but if enough people do it,
if enough people do it, it's going to help drive the numbers of the YouTube subscriptions.
Right.
If we get to 1,000, that's when that happens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't get yourself worked up. I'll keep track of it and let you know when you're in trouble.
Until we get to 900, I'm not buying the Tai Chi mask yet.
Speaking of which, current status, we are, as of this show, 229 subscribers.
All right, quarter of the way there.
We're almost 25% of the way there. We got 62 days to get it done. If you want to hear Sir Ian Dangerous.
30 days to get both of us. We have to get both of us.
Days.
I'm not doing this alone. I'm not doing this alone, Nick.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll change the goal on the video for next week to end of August. We'll see what you guys can do in a month. All right.
Jesus.
Imagine that says 32 days instead of 62 days. There you go. That's the part in front of us. That's what we've got to overcome. Guys, as always, be sure to sign up for the giveaways. Be sure to follow us on the Twitters and the Instagrams. And the giveaway is a great way to do that. That way you can get some merch by doing so. But at BWO Podcast on both. And be sure you're in the Busted Wide Open discussion group. We say that every week. It's so much fun in there. We've got live chats coming up for probably some G1 final stuff. We've got SummerSlam around the corner, as well as TakeOver Toronto. All kinds of good stuff coming, so you want to be in the Busted Wide Open discussion group on Facebook. I promise you. Last but certainly not least, if you'd like to get in on some special perks, exclusives, you can get access to bonus episodes, show notes, the ability to ask listener questions, all kinds of good stuff over at patreon.com/BWO. That is one of the best places to get extra things if you want some more BWO for your ear holes. Let's see. Anything else we need to go over real quick, or can we get out of here?
Nothing, just the fact that we got SummerSlam coming up in 2 weeks, the G1 final, less than 2 weeks now, and the G1 finals coming up soon. We got a lot of shows to do coming up, Nick. If you're a patron, we got a bunch of bonus episodes coming your way. Yeah, good times. It's going to be a fun August, and thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Yes. We'll be back very soon.
We will, but I'm Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at